I passed away on an operating table. Scratch that. I died right outside one. Face planting in a hospital. Corridor after enduring one too many surgeries. Classic. And now, I'm reincarnated as someone else. Some dude named Siening. Same name as mine. What a total joke. Born to a peasant family, parents deceased, and apparently, this clown's entire personality before I took over consisted of drinking, gambling, hitting up brothels, and abusing my wife. Fantastic. Love that for me. Right now, I'm dangling off the back of a wagon, barfing my brains out, while some guy named Lee Urju hurls insults at me for trashing his ride. He tosses me onto the dirt with a couple of coins, and mentions that my wife tumbled down a mountain while gathering firewood, and she might already be a goner. Then he calls me a piece of trash and bails. Fair enough, honestly. I crawl my way to my new residence, which is pretty much a dilapidated shack. There is literal human feces right by the front door, and I step right in it. Of course I do. Inside, a crowd of women are freaking out over someone who is hemorrhaging badly. Since I was an actual physician in my previous life, I bypass them and head straight into the kitchen first. Because old habits die hard, and I require clean water and sanitized hands before I examine anyone. Rummaging through a jar of pickled veggies, I uncover this body's secret stash. Some tattered scholar vestments and a measly handful of coppers. That is it. That represents our entire net worth. As the water heats up, I piece together the fragments of memory, rotting away inside this guy's brain. Turns out, the girl bleeding out in the next room is his spouse. A displaced refugee the locals saved and married off to him. Every other woman was made a concubine, but she received an actual wedding. Lucky her, right? Except barely 10 days after the nuptials, both of his parents died. So the town labeled her a jinx, and this pathetic loser used that label as an excuse to constantly brutalize her, try selling her to a brothel, and threaten her with even worse. So this total jerk is the dude whose skin I'm currently wearing. I give the door a knock. Inside, someone screams as she's spitting up blood. That instantly kicks me into gear. Grabbing a wash basin, I burst in and see her completely out cold. She's covered in way more blood than I barfed up earlier. The ladies cower away from me, acting like I'm about to throw hands. I assure them I'm not here to lay a finger on her. I tell them to give us the room so I can inspect her trauma thoroughly. Once they clear out, I give her a real medical check. Head, neck, arms. Nothing seems to be broken. Hips, carefully checked, look fine too. We're in the dead of winter, yet she's only got one flimsy layer of clothes on. The blood soaking the bedding isn't from internal hemorrhaging. It's actually from lashings across her arms and shoulders that completely shredded her skin. Then, I finally catch a glimpse of her face. She's tiny, pale, maybe 15 or 16, literally just a kid. Fresh welts are layered right over fading black and blue marks, blanketing her arms and shoulders. In my past life, I never once raised a hand to a woman, not even to that gold digging ex who demanded my entire salary just as a dowry. But this is a whole different level of messed up. I force myself to calm down, unbuttoning her clothes to look for deep physical damage. I locate 2 fractured ribs and bend close to monitor her heartbeat and respiration. Right then, her head suddenly snaps up and she wheezes, barely hanging on. If you ruin my looks, I won't fetch any price when you try to sell me. She's been tied down to this scumbag for 3 long years, taking constant beatings, and somehow, the bastard never actually crossed that line with her. Turns out it's only because virgins bring in way more cash at a whorehouse. Pure calculente divol. So there I am, holding her half undressed, right under my hands, and she's absolutely terrified, pleading with me to just end her life quickly, rather than making her suffer through it. I stare down the reality of her broken body. Look, I'm a physician, not some monster. I press on her abdomen. Does this hurt? She just gapes at me like I'm speaking some foreign tongue. Applying pressure again, I check her fractured ribs. I need to pinpoint the rest of the pain. Yes or no, that's all. Does it hurt? Shifting to her liver. How about here? No. By the time the checkup ends, her entire face is flushed, and my hands feel a kind of warmth I'd really rather not dwell on. Standing up, I avert my eyes and tell her flatly, just the ribs, nothing else major. I turn to leave. She clutches my sleeve, her eyes tearful and terrified, as if she wants to speak, but loses her nerve. And honestly, looking down at her, a kid who'd still be in high school back in my world, just stressing over tests and silly crushes. Yet here she is, getting brutalized by some trash husband. Yeah, even a cynical, cold-hearted person. Let me feels a little peace break inside. Gently breaking her grip, I step out to the courtyard and return with a few wooden stakes and a blade from the kitchen. She freezes in absolute terror the moment she spots the knife. So I quickly clarify, those fractured bones need a splint. This is going to sting, so try to stay still. I whittle the wood into makeshift splints. But as I lean over to set the bone, she completely panics. Husband, I'm begging you please. Have mercy. I'll give you every single penny I make. I'll take on extra laundry. I'll chop it up on the mountain. I'll do whatever it takes. Just please don't sell me off. Don't hurt me anymore. And if you're going to kill me, just make it quick, please. Her wailing is starting to give me a migraine. Feigning irritation, I snap. I've got no interest in beating up a half-dead little beanpole. This is going to hurt, so don't move. And just maybe, I won't sell you. She looks at me in pure disbelief. Right before she can ask me again, I jam a piece of wood between her teeth. Bite down hard. Don't chew your tongue. And stay totally still, no matter how bad it hurts. Then I get straight to work, realigning the fracture by feel through her skin. She's whimpering the entire time, and eventually the stick slips right out of her mouth, causing her to let out a shriek. That likely woke up the entire village. With the bones set, she blacks out from the agony, which is honestly a blessing. I change the blood-soaked linens while she's passed out. By the time I finish up, I'm completely drenched in sweat. A physician's eyes are only supposed to recognize life and death, not gender. Yet, that doesn't stop the sensation of her flesh, and the echoes of her weeping from lingering in my mind regardless. I can't log another minute in this room. Fractured ribs aren't typically a death sentence, but in a world that has practically zero healthcare, typically doesn't mean squat. She is the sole person in this whole universe that I share any bond with. So I'm definitely not letting her kick the bucket over something that's this treatable. Whether I keep her around for the long haul or eventually let our paths split, that's a problem for future me. I'm no saint, but I'm also not going to waste my life playing house with a stranger I have zero interest in. I raid the cupboard looking for a spare quilt, but find 2 tattered old shirts and rat poop instead. Then it hits me. The original guy already pawned the other blanket to buy booze, because of course he did. I don't even have the energy left to get pissed off about it. It's still early, so I scour the house and premises and manage to scrape up exactly 2 bowls of cold water to feed her. Her trauma is severe, enough that even with a medical license, without actual meds, I can't guarantee she'll pull through. Staring up at the snow-blanketed peaks past the village, I just sigh. I'll give it my best shot and pray for a miracle. Honestly, she's the sole person left around here that I actually give a damn about. Since most medicinal plants are summer crops, I spend 2 freezing hours trekking through the highlands, scavenging for winter-hardy flora like aconite root, white peony, and polygala. This devastating famine has ravaged the area so badly that even the wildlife has vanished. The trees have been stripped entirely bare, and the half-frozen corpses of refugees littering the snow bear obvious teeth marks. I seriously can't tell if wild beasts did that, or if it was starving locals. I've already thrown up once today, but now I'm just too famished to care. It takes an hour to walk to town. Along the path, I stumble upon a bunch of village kids huddled around a bonfire, looking way too thrilled about something. Which one of you little punks took a crap right by my front door? They immediately scatter to hide whatever they're roasting. The rich aroma of grilled sparrow hits me, and suddenly my hunger pangs return with a vengeance. Liar. Nobody did that. Oh yeah? Then why are flies buzzing all over your backside, you liar? Snatching the skewer straight out of one kid's hand, I give him a swift kick for good measure. Man, that roasted sparrow tastes absolutely phenomenal. Pure even. Apparently, the original version of me had quite the reputation around these parts as a total lowlife, so my petty behavior doesn't shock anyone. One brat, who turns out to be Lee Urju's boy, the very same guy who left me stranded on the road earlier, bursts into tears and threatens to go tattle to his old man. Be my guest, kid. Your dad already gave you a beating this morning, so consider us even. By midday, I finally hit town. A massive queue has already formed outside the apothecary. Folks look completely drained, zombie-like, and can barely stand. I pass the medicinal plants I gathered to the merchant, getting a bit of first aid salve and a few coins back. He's totally stoked, telling me to fetch more whenever I spot any. I inquire about what's wrong with the queue outside. He lets out a sigh, explaining it's a bad habit, some narcotic known as carefree powder. The Emperor's court recently outlawed it, so now anyone who's hooked is lining up right here for detox therapy instead. The details click for me instantly. It's pretty much this realm's equivalent of an ancient opium-style narcotic from back in the day. Inexpensive to produce, effortless to circulate. It pumps up troops into fierce brawlers and turns intellectuals into hyperactive masterminds while turning in Entire kingdom into a bunch of junkies within 10 years. Typical. I asked the store owner if the detox recipe relies on a particular blend of botanicals. His face brightens. You know your stuff? 2 ingredients the pharmacy utilizes are standard. But the final one, going grass, is straight up toxic. They're deploying it to combat a deadlier toxin, which is the most brain-dead remedy I've heard all day. Talk about fighting fire with a bigger blaze. I give it to the merchant straight, even though I realize it sounds bizarre coming from a penniless academic caked in mud. I suggest he might want to swap out that hazardous weed for aconite root, counterbalanced by a touch of burnet forage, to neutralize the chilling effects of the remaining components. He cracks up right at me, telling me to keep off the topic of medicine, like I'm some expert. Fine, I gave a shot. I excuse myself and walk away. Why misses that? The moment I exit, the shopkeep passes along. My advice to the back office is a gag. And the senior physician in there, a guy named Dr. who basically leaps right out of his seat. Turns out my offhand remark could actually wipe out the addiction within 3 years, rather than just managing it forever. He dashes straight for the front door to grab me. But I've already split. I spend my cash carefully in town. Her meds, the cheapest grain available, some basic cooking oil, and a bit of sugar on a whim. Honestly, I can't stop thinking about the look on her face this morning. I also pick up 2 meat buns and 2 plain ones. I eat the plain ones on the walk, tucking the meat ones against my chest to keep them warm. I wander into a bookstore just to scope out prices. Since I recall being a scholar in this lifetime, too, I figure maybe the Imperial exams are still my ticket to the top. But one glance at those price tags, where even the lowest grade paper and inkstones cost way more than I've got on me, and that dream is instantly dead. The clerk takes one look at my scruffy clothes and straight up mocks me as I leave. Whatever. He's not wrong. By the time I make it back to the village, night has fallen and the whole place is suddenly buzzing. It's incredibly loud in a very particular way. The second I realize what's up, I immediately regret even existing. Back home, I check on her. No fever, still asleep. Perfect. Exhausted. I lie down beside her and just crash. The next morning, I'm up before she is. I boil water, clean up, heat up the buns, and get the porridge going. She tries to sit up the moment she spots me, but I have to hold her back. Her bones are still setting. The wrong move could ruin all of yesterday's progress. She winces away from me as soon as I sit on the mattress, completely terrified and already saying sorry for not getting out of bed to fix breakfast herself. I tell her to hush and just let me check her pulse. Old habits die hard. Where I come from, I spent a year studying traditional Chinese medicine with a renowned physician before transitioning to surgery. So, checking a basic pulse like this is a breeze for me. I tell her straight up that her body's core health is fine. She's just totally drained from months of illness. With some proper rest, she should be up and around in about a fortnight. She goes completely stone silent. I guess she has no idea how to handle a husband who isn't actively beating her up. I stand up to fetch her the congee and steam buns. In the morning light, I apparently look quite decent. Neat scholar's robes, tall posture, the whole deal. Not that I care, but his memories reveal exactly why she agreed to marry into this family without a dowry. In the first place, she fancied his looks. That attraction vanished pretty quickly, though. His dad died from falling off a roof the very day she arrived, and his mother passed away from heartbreak shortly after. And from the start, he blamed both of those deaths entirely on her. He thrashed her within an inch of her life at the funeral, and never really stopped after that. She spent every day since believing she had it coming, viewing it as penance for her father and brother, losing a battle that left 30,000 soldiers dead. So, none of this, me acting kind, or checking her pulse like a proper doctor, makes any sense to her. I prop a pillow up behind her back, and let her know the medicine is warming by the hearth, to be drunk right after she finishes eating. I mention they'll try to bring home some bone broth tonight for her strength, then ask if anyone in the village takes in needlework, given that her quilt is ruined with blood. I also inquire, partly out of genuine concern, whether the family is currently in debt to anyone, seeing as the previous guy was clearly a total disaster with money. She just gives me this blank, soulless stare, and softly asks if I can help her change later on. I tell her sure, since her old gear is trashed anyway. I'll grab her some new threads in a few days, new clothes. Just for her. Right then, what little hope she had left totally shatters. In her mind, there's only one reason a guy, like her husband, would ever buy his wife something new. He's dialing her up to sell her off. You don't need to buy me new clothes, she says, looking up at me. Now I finally get a good look at her. Tangled hair with dry, yellowed tips and a tiny face, framed by these huge, tear-filled eyes. Even with the smile she forces, it just looks heartbreaking. Her voice trembles. Husband in the closet. There's the dress. I wore the day your mother brought me here. Can you put it on me? That way, when I pass away, my family will know it's me in the afterlife. I just gawk at her, completely thrown off, and gestured toward the buns in her hands. Those are getting cold. That snaps her right out of it. She suddenly notices she's holding the meat buns, while I'm just having plain porridge. She immediately tries to swap dishes with me, insisting that she actually prefers porridge, and that the meat buns should go to me. Her sister-in-law and mother had drilled it into her since she was a kid. Wives must always serve their husbands first. There's no universe where the man gets stuck with porridge, while the wife gets to eat meat. I'm not buying that for a second. Come on, nobody turns down meat during a literal famine. I step over, gently brush her dry hair, and tell her I got those buns specifically for her. I know she's terrified of me, but I genuinely meant what I said. Then I ask for her name, because apparently, I'm about to bunk in this tiny shack with this girl, and I don't even know what to call her. I am Suwon. Just being this close to me makes her entire body turn. I'm totally paralyzed by anxiety, but my quiet, mild voice somehow breaks through and comforts her, despite everything that's happened. Once breakfast is done, I make sure she takes her meds, and right after that, I bolt straight toward the edge of town. Trudging halfway up the mountain, it hits me. The poor girl has 2 fractured ribs, and I just abandoned her by herself all day. How on earth is she going to use the restroom alone, considering how she completely lost it over a single pork bun? If I offer to give her a hand with that, she'll probably cry me a whole river. I shake off the thought for now as I keep climbing. Along the path, I cross paths with some locals cutting wood. These are guys who clearly view the old me as a worthless, deadbeat slacker. They start ragging on me for hiking up here with a basic machete, joking like I'm trying to steal a real hunter's gig. I tune them out and press on. About 30 minutes later, scouting for medicinal plants feels way simpler now that I have yesterday's practice under my belt. I'm slowly starting to comprehend how this society works. As it turns out, it shares pretty much the identical script. Heritage and civil service tests I remember from my history studies. That's true even though this particular era is totally new to me. If the entire social setup matches up this perfectly with my past knowledge, I reckon I stand a solid chance at moving up through the state examinations using my modern education. But naturally, none of that matters if I don't make some cash first. And seeing that long queue for addiction recovery outside the apothecary yesterday already sparked a brilliant concept on how to secure some funds. Mind you, I still need a bit more time to flesh out the specifics. I'm gathering a ton of plants at a great pace, taking barely half the time I wasted yesterday, when suddenly I freeze dead in my tracks just 20 paces away. There it is, resting in a massive pool of blood. A partially devoured carcass. It's a deer, a whole deer. Just a lone wild boar fetches a solid 2 silver minimum. So a deer of this size, man, even half of it is worth a full month of foraging herbs. No, make that 2 months. I lie low nearby for like 20 minutes, just in case. Whatever slaughtered it returns, before sneaking over to investigate. The blood is still warm and hasn't congealed yet. This literally just happened. Even with its innards chewed up, this beast has got to weigh around 200 pounds. There's absolutely no way my feeble, newly transmigrated body can haul this down the mountain by myself. So, I tie it to a few branches using the rope from my basket, and begin dragging the entire load downward, basket included. By noon, the village men have congregated around the millstone to play chess, killing time after finishing their own wood gathering. One of them, my neighbor, mentions that nobody has seen me return yet, and half joking, half concerned, he brings up the idea of sending someone up the slopes to ensure I haven't been devoured by wolves. The original guy's parents passed away less than 6 months ago, so even those who look down on him feel somewhat duty-bound to look into it. Right as a volunteer offers to go get the village chief, someone catches sight of me trekking down the path, hauling a massive object behind me. Hold up, is that Sienning? What's he pulling? It's game, a legitimate wild animal. Within moments, I am completely mobbed by half a dozen guys totally losing their minds over the deer. 200 pounds easily worth 2 pieces of silver. That's half a year's worth of food for an entire household. They're calling me incredibly lucky for bagging something this massive on my literal first hunting trip ever. Just pure luck, I reply, shrugging it off, even though hauling this massive thing down the mountain has absolutely destroyed both of my shoulders. Some guy named Zhonglai throws his arm around my neck, acting way too friendly. He's already plotting how to sell the deer and blow the cash on booze and chicks at some local brothel. Word is they have a promo this month where spending enough scores you a free girl. I brush him off without saying a word. and head straight past him toward Li Erzu the stoic, unmoved guy standing by the millstone. Hey, Brother Erju, you free this afternoon? I need someone to haul this to town for me. Li Erju, who's already built like a brick wall, and currently glaring daggers, just grunts. To town? Fine. That'll be 20 coins for the cart, then slick. And why aren't you asking Lazy Jean? Since he's so down to help you for free. I tell Li Erzu, with complete sincerity, that Lazy Jean doesn't even have a cart, and that I'm totally done with brothels. For good, thanks to yesterday's scolding. Erju doesn't buy it for a second. The old me's reputation isn't getting fixed in one chat. Still, he pulls out his whip anyway and warns me. 20 coins for the cart ride, not a penny less, or I'll whip you bloody. He hoists the 200-pound deer onto his shoulder like it weighs nothing. Genuinely impressive. Back home, the gym gave me a solid six-pack, but this guy makes me look soft. Behind us, Lazy Jean gets mocked by the other locals for getting rejected, and tries to save face by claiming I'll come crawling back to him eventually. I catch the dark look he shoots at my back as we leave, keeping that in mind for later. The guy's clearly petty. At the edge of town, I have air. Ju steer the cart into the trees off the main road. Instead of heading straight to the market, he immediately grabs a branch, ready to beat me senseless. If he thinks I'm cooking up something shady, fair enough. Considering who he thinks I am, I just need to dress this deer properly before putting it up for sale. Eye his woodcutting knife against mine. Figure his has a better edge and borrow it before diving right in. First, I slice straight through the mangled belly, making a clean cut right down the spine. I work my arm all the way up to the shoulder to sever the head. Hey, Erju, give me a hand lifting this up. He's too spaced out to even question it, so he just helps. One loud pop, and the head comes right off. He's staring at me like I've got two heads myself. I brush it off with a quick excuse. All this animal damage might tank the price, so I'm just tidying it up first. What I keep to myself, though, is that butchery is basically a basic skill for any surgeon. Honestly, if I had a proper scalpel instead of this basic woodcutting knife, I could dissect a human body way faster than this deer. The antlers are way too old to fetch a decent price, and there's no valuable blood to harvest since it's a buck, without any fetal parts. Still, the deer penis and tendons will pull in some serious cash, and the meat itself holds solid medicinal value too. I carve through the entire carcass with smooth, expert movements. Joints snap apart exactly where I intend, and organs are dressed out without a bit of waste. Erju just watches my soft, pampered hands that have never done a day of hard labor, move like a seasoned butcher, and he visibly shudders. Xianing, where on earth did you learn how to slaughter pigs? I mean deer. I just tell him I picked it up from some random book once. He's completely thrown off in his world. Books are meant for passing civil exams, not gutting livestock. I laugh it off and quickly piece the deer back together to look whole, concealing all the tooth marks so it looks completely untouched. Once we hit the city, I avoid steering him toward the eateries. Instead, I point him to the town's east side, the affluent zone, since the wealthy areas are always out east in spots like this. Rather than knocking on front doors like a fool, I make my way through the back alleys, hitting up the rear entrances one by one. After getting rejected house after house, Arjun starts losing his patience, proposing we just sell the stuff to a restaurant kitchen, since he knows a few cooks. I tell him to hold on. I saw this coming. A famine means everyone is already poaching and selling meat on the side, so eatery kitchens are already swamped with rivals. Besides, getting noticed at a rich family's back door is a whole different challenge on its own. At the next place, I slide the gatekeeper, a kid even younger than myself, a couple of coins before he can slam the door on us. He snorts, totally unimpressed, but tells us to wait. He says if that door doesn't swing open, by the time a stick of incense burns down, we're done. Erju's livid watching me bow and grovel to some random teenager, calling me an idiot for throwing cash at a basic doorman instead of keeping it. I just grin and explain, half joking, that a doorman at a prime minister's pad outranks a standard bureaucrat. Gesticulating at the plaque above the entry, I tell him, this isn't just some wealthy family's home. This is a legitimate government official's residence. Huge difference between a fancy house and a true estate. Erju completely freaks out, grabbing my sleeve and pleading for us to jet right now. The original me might be a worthless drunk, but he's breathing, and Erju won't let me get us both executed, trying to hawk a deer to a magistrate's household. Just then, the back door opens up again. A middle-aged guy walks out, clad in simple gray robes. Are you the guy selling the wild venison? That's me. I tell the steward, cool and collected. My brother and I bagged this fresh just this morning. Didn't even waste time stopping at a restaurant. We came straight here. He begins checking the deer himself, but I'm quicker. I peel back the pelt myself to show him just how clean the prep work is. No messy cleanup for his kitchen staff to handle. You can toss it right in the pot, I add. He's impressed. Most hunters who come around selling deer or boar don't bother dressed cleaning the carcass this well, much less mounting the head beautifully for display. Then his brow furrows. Why is there a chunk missing from the underbelly? Urju loses his cool and starts blabbing the truth. That a piece got torn off dragging it down the mountain. But I smoothly cut him off, telling the steward, we carve a bit out, as a gift for our elderly relatives. Since venison does wonders for the old and frail. And we kept the blood back home, too, seeing how it's a pain to transport. That wins him over instantly. Devoted sons, how touching, he notes, asking my price. This is the moment that truly counts. Even the cheapest pork in town costs upwards of 20 coins a pound. A 200-pound deer sold to an official's estate should easily fetch 4 taels of silver. That amounts to half a year of Urju's income from a single buck. Urju, desperate to seal the deal before I blow it, tries to chime in. But I nudge him back and keep up the pitch instead. I pitch all the perks to the steward. Venison as a health tonic. Great for seniors and kids alike. The bones for broth and the fat for healing wounds. And then tactfully hint that the head would make a fine wall mount, provided the lord of the manor is into archery or riding. The manager's entire look shifts, strictly guy to guy now. He drops the professional act and pops the exact question I was angling for. What about the buck's other pieces? He's hinting at the obvious. Instead, I pass him the tail, smirking just enough to let him catch my drift, without saying it flat out. Whatever the master intends to do with certain private parts is entirely his business. But the tail does the exact same trick, and he is more than welcome to try it. The moment I confirmed this was a buck, I knew this specific piece will be my real cash cow. The administrator totally catches my vibe and marks me down as one crafty little academic. He buys the whole lot right there. Meat for 40 coins, 1 string, 3 tails for the antlers, and 3 additional tails for that special item. I don't dicker over the price at all once the silver, 12 tails in total, is actually sitting in my palm. Urju smacks himself right in the face from sheer disbelief, startling me half to death. He's floored that we just traded a deer for that kind of money. He thought 4 tails would have been a jackpot. I just chuckle and point out, yeah, we locked it in, and now we can finally fix a proper roast, rather than being mush. He socks my shoulder hard enough to nearly pop it out of place. Suddenly quite odd that I've apparently found my silver tongue. I slide him the 20 coins promised for the wagon ride, and offer my genuine thanks. Without his help, I'd never have had the guts to knock on an aristocrat's servant's entrance all by myself. He waves off the gratitude, telling me to drop the sweet talk, giving me a warning that's part threat and part real care, saying he swore to my late mother that he'd keep an eye on me, so if I turn back into a total deadbeat, he's gonna personally beat some sense right into me, with some actual cash on hand. I finally quit pinching pennies on everything, since I already picked up a whole week's worth of medication for Sue 1 yesterday. I decide to head back to that bookstore from before. This time, I look through the 4 books and 5 classics, properly checking out the prices to confirm. Man, even the cheapest volume costs a whole silver tael. Free money doesn't just drop from the sky every day. So I swallow my pride and ask the shopkeeper if there's any cheaper way to study. Turns out that broke students around here rely on handwritten versions rather than printed books, and they're half off. Plus, transcribing the text by hand helps with memorization. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, I don't think twice. I have the shopkeeper check that my script is good enough. All those years of forced calligraphy drills back in middle school are finally coming in handy, and I head out with 2 volumes on the doctrine of the mean to transcribe myself. Urju nearly loses it when he sees the price of paper and a rabbit hair ink brush, a whopping 800 coins. And he can't buy that I'm actually trying to hit the books. Leaving the bookshop, I finally make it to the meat shop I missed out on yesterday and buy a massive stack of pork ribs and bones. By a mid-afternoon, both our stomachs are growling, so I treat us to 15 huge meat buns, and we scarf them down on a cart ride back, grease dripping all over our faces. Urju nags me the entire way home, calling me reckless for splashing out on fancy new garments for Sue 1 when any basic dress would work, and wondering why on earth I got 20 pounds of pork when it's not even festival season, terrified it'll go bad. Just before we wrap up, it oddly brings to mind my own mom, always writing me back in my past life. But instead of getting annoyed, I'm honestly just thankful that someone like this, rough around the edges but genuinely caring, is around for a total wreck like the old me. I tell him straight up, she got hurt pretty bad, and I treated her like garbage before, so I really want to make it up to her a bit. Buying new clothes isn't a regular thing, just this once. And there's nothing wrong with dropping some cash to make my own wife happy. Flashing back to how freezing and miserable the bed felt last night, I also bring up that I bought some cotton and fabric and ask if his wife, who's supposedly the top tailor in the village, could help stitch a pair of new quilts for us. It's a small favor, plus some easy money for her. With the day's tasks finally out of the way, I finally get a second to breathe. The snow from that massive blizzard earlier this year is still blanketing the fields heavily. Alongside the road, it's just endless white, making the whole world seem pretty bleak. It's already the middle of March, so we got to start planting by late April. I mutter mostly to myself. Urju follows my gaze toward the frozen landscape, looking anxious. If this snow doesn't clear up anytime soon, even the folks on our side of the border are going to start starving. I start thinking about the history I know, how whole dynasties completely crumbled during many ice ages, with crops failing year after year, and a heavy weight sinks right into my chest. Then, out in the middle of all that white, I spot a speck of deep red against the snow. Hey look, is that someone lying over there? I'm just about to leap off the wagon when Urju grabs my arm. What do you think you're doing? People drop dead out here constantly during a famine. Stay out of it, he tells me. Honestly, he's not wrong. But right as the wagon rolls past that heap on the dirt road, the dying man's gaze locks onto mine. Total desperation. Just purely begging to survive. Urju, stop the cart. I can't control myself. And I hop down anyway. Help! Help me. A guy is pooled in his own blood, his eyes lighting up with hope the moment he catches my eye. Crimson bubbles up with every single breath. Don't move. First, I check his pulse. Then I press my hand to his chest to track his heart rate. It's ticking over 120 BPM, even bracing for the worst. That pace still freaks me out. Back home, modern medicine has tech for all of this. Here, I don't even have basic artery forceps. I rip his tunic open. It's exactly what I dreaded. A deep, nasty gash slicing from his shoulder all the way down to his belly, bleeding like crazy. Urju is completely losing it. We've got to bounce right now. No one bounces back from this. This is bad juju, Siening. Let's move. Look, I'm no saint, and I'm definitely not trying to play some ancient hero. But this dude is built like a brick wall. Clearly someone high-ranking. And it feels like such a waste to let him bite the dust. When there's a fighting chance, I ask if he's carrying any trauma medicine. He just sputters blood through his teeth. I don't bother waiting around for an answer. I start rifling through his sleeves myself and pull out 2 tiny medicine vials. The scent gives it right away. Panax, pseudo-ginseng, platyclatus, and hairy vein agrimony. That last one is insanely pricey. Absolutely top-shelf styptic powder. This basically proves my hunch. This gentleman isn't some ordinary peasant. Urju, grab me some clean snow fast. Out here with no water source, the freezing cold. Snow is the absolute best shot I gotta buy us time and slow this bleeding. Urju mumbles under his breath, thinking I've completely lost my mind. But he bolts off to fetch it anyway, because a guy's life is hanging in the balance here. I give it to the dying man straight, trying to move him to a proper doctor in the city. We'll kill him way before we arrive, so I have to wing it. I pull out the sewing needle I packed away earlier for fixing up the bedding and tell him flat out, we don't know each other. I can't guarantee a thing, but I'll give it a shot, and if you kick the bucket anyway, well, then you die. Brutal but honest truth. A basic sewing needle isn't ideal, but it'll have to do. He just watches drifting in and out as I drive the needle into 4 critical pressure points. Chi-hai, Wan-yuan, Shui-hai, and In-bai, targeting the hemorrhage right at its source. Then I grab him by the hair and give fair warning, 1 last needle, right into Tianju at the base of his skull. And this is going to hurt like hell, and it sure does. The very second that needle pierces, he practically goes into spasms, his eyes nearly popping out. Urju makes it back with the snow right in the nick of time. I scoop up handfuls and stuff it straight into the gash, packing it in, and holy crap, it's actually working. The hemorrhage is letting up. Yeah, no time of jaw now. I snap at him to thread a needle for me ASAP. Thread it for what? To stitch up this tear, obviously. Get a move on. He's running out of time here. After giving a rapid clean, I sprinkle styptic powder all over the open flesh. And by the time Urju finally gets the thread through, I'm already busy mending the ripped skin back together. The guy just gawks at me, totally speechless, staring at the stitches going in cleaner and more precise than anything his own wife has ever patched onto his trousers. I've only ever known people to wrap up wounds, but you're sewing him back together like fabric. I keep flying through it. Back in my previous life, I was hands down one of the fastest surgeons at suturing in a first-rate medical center, beneath intense illumination and magnification. Using a basic needle on a dude bleeding out in the snow feels pretty much identical to mending a shoe sole. I wrap it up with a tidy surgical knot. Step back and monitor his pulse, which is still falling. Dipping under 110 now, I'll let out a heavy sigh. All right, he's stable for the time being, just for a moment. Everything is dead, still, except for the breeze. The guy mumbles to speak, but then his eyelids drift shut. I plop down on the ground a bit to get my wind back, before telling Urju to assist in lifting him onto the wagon. Say what on the wagon? He's going to kick the bucket on my wagon. The very same dude who swore to flog me for throwing up on his ride just a bit ago is somehow way more flipped out over a guy actually dying. I'm just way too spent from this whole day, the mountain, Deer City, and now this mess, to dispute that he's not checking out. Looks like the Grim Reaper won't even take him anyway. Returning close to the city entrance, we haul him down and set him right in the middle of the boulevard. I toss a handful of cash around his body and murmur to him softly, preserving a life beats any tribute you could leave at a temple. No need to pay me back, just get a shot at surviving. And if passers-by spot the money lying around, maybe they'll pitch in too. I stand up to leave. A tug pulls on my sleeve, making me spin around. His eyelids are open, sounding hoarse. Savior. Who are you? I reply frankly that we don't know each other. Destiny just crossed our paths for this single instant. My identity doesn't count for anything. I am merely an ordinary guy trying to live under the radar. I request that he doesn't hunt me down or bring any drama to my doorstep, because observing him at this moment, there is no doubt about it. Common folks don't pull through injuries quite like this. And common folks most certainly aren't sporting deer-hide footwear that runs higher than what most folks earn in a whole year. Urju is already back on the wagon, tired of waiting. As I begin to walk away, the guy struggles, fumbling inside his pocket. He pulls something out with a massive effort, his voice straining. I've got nothing else to clear this debt with. Please, benefactor, take this. It's a white jade pendant, sleek and warm, engraved with a striking, frosty pattern. Even a guy as clueless about antiques as me could tell this thing is worth serious cash. I normally wouldn't accept a payoff from a complete stranger under regular circumstances. But a single piece of jade? Sure, I'll take it. Worst case scenario, I just avoid flaunting it around. Best case, during a brutal famine like this, it might literally save my skin one day. I'll take it then. Take care of yourself, Erjun. Let's head home. The entire way back, Erjun won't stop whining, even stopping to thoroughly scrub his cart with grass and snow before we enter the village. Apparently, he's terrified of what his wife will say if she spots anything sketchy on it. I tease him about being totally whipped, and he just grunts, not even denying it. The moment we roll into town, we're totally mobbed. Everyone's eyes are glued to the basket in the cart, like a pack of vultures. Sienning, you hit the jackpot. How much did the deer fetch? 2 taels. Check out that basket. It's crammed full of meat. Mind your own business. Erjun snaps before I can even open my mouth, cracking his whip dangerously close to someone's face. My brother sold that deer using his own skills. So back off. Even if he bought 100 pounds of meat, none of you are getting a single drop of grease from it. Right then, the village's top gossip, Widow Zhang, pipes up in that shrill little voice of hers, claiming I'm her little brother, not Erjun's, while reminding everyone I once fetched water for her. Hearing her call me little bro, like that totally creeps me out. I recall my past self apparently used to fetch her water, and I silently think, of course he did. What a simp. I instantly set the record straight, loudly announcing to everyone that the water duty was just a favor for another guy in town, and that I already have a wife waiting at home. Thank you very much. She tries to argue, clearly pissed that I'm not playing along anymore. But the village chief's son steps in and puts her right in her place, pointing out she's old enough to be my mom, so she definitely has no business calling herself big sister to anyone around here. She slinks away, still eyeing our cart. The chief's son then asks if I made good cash off the deer. I owe him some respect, so I keep it vague. Just enough for my wife's meds, which is true, since city medicine is pricey. And if I couldn't write my own prescriptions, even a basic checkup would cost a fortune. That should have been it, but lazy Zhang, the same guy who got shut down this morning, just can't resist poking his nose in, asking straight up if I made 2 taels. I shut him down cold. None of your business. Even if I pulled in 100 taels, it wouldn't involve you at all. Ernie, let's head out. As we roll away, the crowd turns on lazy Zhang instead, mocking him for sucking up to me earlier and getting completely ignored. He grunts, spits on the ground, and mutters something about getting back at me later. Noted. Once we're back home, I check the doorstep first, glad there were no unexpected shocks this time around. Urju lends a hand with unloading. He grabs the cloth and cotton so his wife can stitch some quilts, and even suggests she craft a fresh shirt for me. Out of the scraps, I tell him I appreciate it. The gear I'm wearing still reeks of yesterday's gross bar fest. That vomit stain won't budge, no matter the scrubbing. So a backup is definitely a win. Before he takes off, I pass him 5 pounds of pork along with the deer fat I'd set aside just for him. He instantly pushes it back, totally freaking out, reminding me that he only watches out for me because we were raised on the exact same breast milk. His own mother couldn't nurse, you see, so my mom fed both of us. He considers me his actual little bro, he says, and claims I shouldn't be tossing cash away when my own wife is sick at home. I argue back, mostly messing with him, by threatening to give the meat to Widow Zhang. If he keeps refusing, that does the trick. He glares, mumbles a bit, but finally takes it, half admitting that his lady won't be nagging him about me anymore. The moment she spots this massive pile of pork, he tries to hand the deer fat back next, arguing that there's barely enough left to bother with. I tell him he's keeping it regardless. His wife can melt it down into tallow, since it works like a charm on frostbite and burns. Besides, I'd probably just screw up and waste it myself. I just ask for half back once it's all rendered. He gives a nod and heads on out. With him gone, I haul the load into the kitchen, chop the remaining pork into smaller portions, and toss them onto the roof to freeze. I boil up some water using our last logs of firewood, give myself a solid scrub, and get the ribs and bones rinsed and soaking, before I finally make my way to the bedroom. Earlier, it was just Urju and me chatting out in the yard, right before he took off for the day. Someone's been sitting by herself all day, totally stressed out and wondering if I was actually serious when I promised not to sell her. I gently nudge the door open. You doing all right? She's leaning halfway against the bed, one of her shoulders exposed in an old shirt of mine, seeing as she has nothing else to wear. She was way too overwhelmed to notice this morning, but now, as our eyes meet, her entire face flushes. I'm doing okay. Sitting on the edge of the mattress, I recheck her pulse, trying to keep my expression completely blank despite how flustered she is. The stats are identical to this morning, just a slightly elevated heart rate. I clear my throat. You probably haven't had a bite to eat since earlier. I heated up some steamed buns, and the rest of the food is finishing up. Have this first. Meat buns again? She accepts it anxiously, completely, uncertain whether I'm actually in a decent mood or not. And remembering how oddly I behaved this morning, she tentatively inquires, Husband, have you eaten yet? That single word, husband, catches me totally off guard. A sudden surge of heat, unlike anything I've ever felt in this body, hits me right in the gut. I let out a loud, incredibly forced cough. Yeah, I ate. She instantly misinterprets my clumsy reaction as anger, freaking out inside that she has displeased me once more. The ensuing quiet is agonizing. I'm stuck debating whether to hang around or head out, and the hormones in this body definitely have a mind of their own, so I decide to pivot. Anyway, I picked up a new outfit for you. Want to check it out? A new dress. With everything she's been through today, this just doesn't register at all. I pull out a light blue gown. Then she rubs her eyes, totally disbelieving. What she is seeing, is this really for me? She won't even venture to touch it, as if it might break the moment she does. Yeah, obviously it's for you. You think I'm going to wear a dress? I joke, trying to cut the tension. And it actually works. She calms down a bit. Try it on after dinner, once I redo your bandages. Right then, a crucial detail hits me. Oh, by the way, I was out all day. How did you handle the bathroom situation? She stares blankly, totally lost. Mortified, I clear my throat and spell it out. I mean, doing your business. Her entire face flushes crimson from the neck up. On paper, we're married, so this talk shouldn't even be awkward between us. Except we've never actually been close before today. The old me wouldn't even let her into the bedroom. She used to sleep on the firewood in the kitchen. She mutters that the girl next door, Xiaoying, who is Urju's concubine, assisted her. I breathe a sigh of relief. No matter how gorgeous someone might be, helping out with that particular chore is something I just don't have the stomach for. Sick wife or not, right? Dinner is still on the stove. Let me check on it, I say, bolting from the room instantly. I leave her by herself, blushing at the wall. After a long silence, she whispers to herself softly, he is like an entirely different person. Pork bones take hours to yield proper stock, so I grab the batch I already had going. I whip up a quick stir-fried rib dish with the meager spices we have on hand, throwing in some frozen scallions from the yard to finish it off. There's no ginger or garlic, but the whole pot smells incredible anyway. I made it home too late to steam any rice, so dinner is strictly meat buns and ribs, just pure protein. It's basically to toast to surviving the day, and honestly, to celebrate the cash too. So-in just stares blankly as I set down the bowl of ribs. Husband, I'm in such an awesome mood that my grin probably looks effortlessly charming. Made some good money in town today. Let's feast tonight. There's broth as well. Save it for bedtime. Made money. Hearing those words come from this specific guy feels completely surreal to her. She watches me scan the place for something, anything, to substitute for a table, and I eventually haul the kitchen chopping board over onto a stool, grumbling under my breath about how ridiculous it is that we don't even own a decent table. Seriously, what kind of home doesn't have a table to eat on? The original me really was just as worthless as everyone keeps making him out to be. Half the house is ruined, the bed is trashed, and I don't even have a single change of clothes. Yet, somehow I'm supposed to study for the imperial exams on top of all this mess. Cash just vanishes into the endless pit of problems. In this life, we eat in total silence for a bit, while I'm mentally blasting my past self and calculating our budget. She keeps quiet as well, too frightened to ruin whatever good mood I'm in right now. Now that her husband has finally turned over a new leaf, she's terrified of jinxing it back to the old ways. Eat up, I say, dropping a massive chunk of rib in her bowl. Thank you, husband, she mutters, her voice barely a whisper. I look up at her blushing face and, for no real reason, abruptly ask, husband, did you actually call me that before? She freezes, clearly caught off guard by the question. Embarrassed, she practically shoves her entire face in her bowl. I've never called you that before. Well, that's not entirely true. She did once. It only got her thrashed, so she never attempted it again. The sole reason she's got the guts to speak up now is because of how completely different I am today. Back when she had nothing to do but stay in bed, she used to read those ancient ghost stories about scholars being secretly possessed by spirits who wedded wealthy men's daughters. And she would silently pray that something, anything, a phantom or a specter, had taken over her real husband. She didn't care what, just literally anyone besides the old Siening. So, hearing her come clean today makes something inside me relax. I place another rib in her bowl, and without even catching my own inflection, I tell her with a bit too much arrogance. Eat up. I'll swap out your dressing shortly, and let me know if you got to use the restroom. Don't be awkward about it. Once night fell, Urger dropped by carrying a pair of old blankets that his own boys used when they were toddlers. Stunk up with the faint scent of kid pee and all. Whatever. After freezing last night, I'm definitely not complaining. Back in the bedroom, So-in won't even look at me, keeping her head down. Her face is turning crimson just from the steam, rising from the pail of warm water next to the mattress. Husband, I'm set. She's anxious about the sponge bath I have to give her, seeing as her fractured ribs make it impossible for her to clean herself up. Up until yesterday, she felt nothing but pure terror around her spouse. Now, something has clearly flipped in her mind, and that specific word, husband, hits me with a heavy significance it shouldn't possess. I clench my jaw and try my best to avert my eyes, but it's pretty much impossible not to spot things while giving someone a wipe down. That fair neck, that collarbone. On paper, she's my wife. Legally, if I demanded anything from her right now, she'd comply, since that's apparently just how things work around here. I don't act on it, obviously, but my body has a mind of its own that I can't fully control in this borrowed flesh. She keeps her hands clamped over her chest, the entire time out of pure embarrassment, clueless to the fact that I'd already seen everything. Whatever, Dr. Brain be damned. Before hitting the sack, I prep her bed properly and bring over her medicine, then beat it back to the kitchen to study by firelight since we can't afford lamp oil. I read through the Doctrine of the Mean, its whole premise being moderation and restraint, a form of self-discipline meant to keep an individual and an entire empire in check. I breezed through the first chapter from memory easily, comparing it to the old philosophy lectures back in my college days. Chapter 3 is where my brain hits a wall, mostly because my fingers are too frozen to even write properly. I seriously need a table and a proper study setup down the line. By the time I crawl back to bed, she's already out cold, resting on the outer edge. I don't disturb her, just climb in past her, and slowly thaw out on her blankets that still carry the scent of someone's childhood. Too much went down today. I'm out within minutes. Next morning, the rooster's crowing. Suwon wakes up pressed right against my bare chest. The split second she shifts, my arm around her waist tightens instinctively. Don't move. Mornings are apparently a hassle for any guy's body, mine included. I'd only fallen asleep shortly before. She must have drifted toward the warmth in her sleep and ended up snuggled into me. I'm no saint. Crashing like this is genuinely warmer than sleeping. Alone, and honestly, no man alive would shrug off someone this soft and warm cuddling up to him. She goes completely rigid, pressed tight against my chest. Her heart is thumping so hard, she's positive I can hear it. With a wave of mounting panic, she also notices just how warm a few parts of me are getting. She's torn whether trying to move or staying completely still is worse. Then, I nuzzle my face right in her neck, taking in her scent and mutter half asleep, totally letting my guard down. Let's snooze a bit longer. Honestly, it's the first decent night of sleep I've gotten since waking up in this body. I whip up breakfast again, some leftover ribs, millet rice, and corn porridge. I hang around for a bit after, hoping she'll bring up the bathroom situation herself. But she keeps her mouth shut. So, I just grab my basket and trudge up the mountain. It's still totally blanketed in snow, but I take my sweet time this round instead of rushing it. The remedy the local pharmacies are currently using to treat the drug habits is just a temporary band-aid. That's sort of artificial. Stimulant ravages a person's system incredibly fast, and without the proper long-term recipe, addicts will just waste away until there's nothing left. Finally, I spot what I'm tracking down. A small patch of oxtongue weed, showing a bit of green through the snowdrift. That's a crucial herb for breaking a fever. Blended with snake tongue grass and pine needles, it creates the exact detoxification blend I had in mind. Now, snake tongue grass is pretty scarce elsewhere, but this peak is absolutely packed with it, and pine needles are literally everywhere. I harvest a solid amount of everything, along with the other plants I found earlier. By the time I make my way back down, this entire mountain feels like a literal gold mine to me. Word has already spread through the community about that deer, so I don't even bother bypassing the main road. Sure enough, everyone at the millstone is eyeballing my basket, like it's packed full of literal gold bars. What's the haul today? That basket looks heavy. One neighbor chimes in. Just some worthless weeds and sticks, I tell him flat out. You seriously think you can sell that in town? The village blacksmith sneers, acting like I've lost my mind, chasing easy money. I just tell him I'm going to try my luck. Maybe some city folk have more cash than brains. I walk away without waiting for a reply. Behind my back, people start gossiping about how money has ruined me. Word is, the old me used to beg for the blacksmith's approval, and now I won't even give him a second glance. Pissed off, the blacksmith decides he's owed cash from when the old me needed funeral assistance, and he plans to come collect it this afternoon. Urju's already off in the city selling firewood, so he's not around to back me up today. The village chief's son catches up with me at the edge of town. Since I'm heading into the city anyway, he offers, want to live part way? It's a quiet ride to town. Once we split up, I head straight for the pharmacy. I squeeze through the crowd to talk to the shopkeeper, but before I can utter a word, he whips around, recognizes me, and his whole face brightens. It's you, the scholar. You finally made it back. He grabs me and drags me straight into the back room before I can say a thing. Dr. Wu is in there, mid-needle on a patient, clearly annoyed by the racket. Withdrawal patients get this nasty, charred-looking blood rash all over their limbs once the drugs high completely wears off. He turns around, highly irritated, until the shopkeeper announces who I am, the intellectual who advised swapping out the toxic herb. Dr. Wu nearly leaps out of his chair. He had spent 2 sleepless nights cross-referencing ancient medical literature, solely to grasp my proposal in theory, but wrapping your head around it, versus actually using it as a cure. Well, those are completely different beasts in medicine. He clasps my hands tightly like I'm some long-lost grandkid, demanding to find out how I know all this. I got to feed him something, so I spin a yarn. A traveling monk stopped by 3 years back. My mom gave him a meal, and he left me a medical book as thanks. So where's this book now? I claim it crumbled away from old age, which leaves him devastated. So I throw the guy a bone. I mention that I still recall pretty much everything in it anyway. For the next 30 minutes, I talk while he scribbles it down, like a schoolboy taking notes from a season master, just with the ages flipped, which honestly looks pretty hilarious. By the time we finish, he's totally floored, finally seeing exactly why every single patient coming to this clinic ended up broken out in ulcers, no matter what remedy they got. Well, of course they did. Nobody's actually been tackling the underlying source. He reasons through the steps with me, swapping to a mix of wolfsbane and brunette root. In the precise ratio could completely wipe out the dependency. The snag is brunette root costs a fortune, way pricier than the toxic weed they currently rely on. I let him stew in that irritation for a brief moment before offering a cool reply. Not every successful remedy fits into a budget. For every single person, that totally triggers him. He assumes I'm implying impoverished folks should just be left to rot. I calmly set things straight. I'm not saying we should scrap the current regimen completely. They have months, or maybe even years, worth worth of cases, deeply locked into the ongoing plan and appending recipes. Like that. On a patient base, this massive brings genuine hazards. The real threat, right this second, isn't even the habit itself. It's the root of the blood issue. Those will end someone way faster than a slow detox ever could. So what's your take then? The merchant gets closer now, totally locked into the conversation. I pull out the plants I harvested, pine needles and ox-tongue weed, presenting an alternative. Budget-friendly, accessible recipe brewed as a basic elixir. Drink it thrice a day, mixed into water, and those ulcers will shrink noticeably in under a week. It'll completely flush out the toxic. Build up within 6 months for minor cases. In a year for the nasty ones. Doctor. He just glares at the plants like they've done something personal to offend him. Pine needles and ox-tongue weed. Pure blood source. Why the hell didn't I realize that? He's practically shaking, caught between pure hype and a total existential breakdown, rambling about needing to double-check his ancient medical journals to understand how to fix this incredibly basic. Never crossed his mind throughout his whole career in medicine. Then, out of nowhere, he just dashes out of the room and bangs the door shut. Honestly, I'm standing there a bit dazed myself. The merchant just lets out a breath and fills me in. Dr. Wu comes from a long line of medical experts, healing folks his entire life. Yet this particular toxin has completely baffled even the imperial court's elite healers. So, having some random kid crack the code with a clever, dirt-cheap approach is bound to mess with his head a bit. Suddenly, his whole vibe changes, getting dead serious. Scholar, let's talk business. Turns out this dispensary, Lunch Hall, is actually the grandest one in town, and the sole spot across the entire Northwestern Territory providing rehab for this specific dependency. That pretty much explains the massive queues out front every single time I pass by. If pretty much everyone around here purging this substance gets channeled into this one storefront, that's way more than just a clinic. We're talking about a whole territory's income stream. Folks get sick no matter what era it is. Healthcare has always been the safest bet for business. In any market, whether modern or ancient. The shop owners definitely have me figured out already, especially the moment I pulled actual medicinal plants out of my basket, rather than just talking theory. He ain't buying that I showed up here with zero agenda. Shinning, you do realize that not every drugstore owner around here is solely driven by saving lives, correct? Yeah, totally, I reply. Then why hand Dr. Wu the remedy for free? You know, a recipe like this could have scored you a massive payout. Straight from the authorities, if you turned it in yourself. I just flash a calm smile. I get that, but I'm a nobody. No status, no family backing me up. Even if I'd kept the recipe to myself, I lack the leverage to protect it, let alone the clout to stroll into a government building and demand a reward. That hits home. He clearly respects the logic, considering how chaotic the political climate is right now. Even his own apothecary couldn't have kept this cure exclusive for very long. Without some heavy hitters in their corner, someone would have ripped it off a long time ago otherwise. So what's your actual angle here? Don't tell me you don't want a thing. He sets his teacup down with a smirk. Because I don't believe that for a second. Of course there's a catch, I tell him. You said it yourself. Times are crazy right now. My wife is ill. Prepping for the civil exams is pricey. And just surviving costs cash. Honestly, I came here just looking for a small break. And never expected to run into two genuinely decent folks like you and Dr. Wu. Cut the sweet talk. We're going to be partners for the long haul. No need to butter me up every single time, all right? The manager at the Noble House and this dude are total opposites. He cuts straight to the chase, so I match his vibe. I'll hand over the detox recipe for free, and the skin ulcer treatment too, but on one condition that you must accept first. Seeing me drop the polite facade, he visibly relaxes, as if he's finally catching a glimpse of the real me. Beneath the courtesy, name your condition. The ingredients for the ulcer remedy must be sourced solely from me. Here's the math. That specific tonic needs to be taken thrice daily, for at least 3 months for minor cases. Even at 3 coins a dose, that hits 10 coins a day. That's a silvertail monthly per patient, and seeing just how widespread this dependency is throughout the entire Northwest. Practically every single patient visiting this clinic over the past year has come solely seeking detoxification. Anyone desperate to avoid those painful blood sores is bound to buy this treatment. The scale of profit here is honestly massive, and naturally, the apothecary won't just retail the prepared medicine at 3 coins a dose. They'll jack up the price. Even if I only cash in on supplying the raw materials, it's still a staggering amount. The merchant clearly respects the hustle. Smart kid. Siening, this cure requires a week to prove itself. I haven't seen results yet. If it fails, everything you've pitched today is just cheap talk. Meaning, if the remedy flops, the prior upgraded formula is completely worthless too. And if it succeeds, then for every batch of detox brew my shop dispenses, the raw herbs will be bought solely from you. Meanwhile, back in the village, oblivious to anything happening around me, Xiaoying, a concubine, is totally hyped over Su Wan's new outfit, confessing that she and the first wife doubted heir Ju when he claimed the old me had totally flipped and bought his spouse actual clothes from a town boutique, not the homemade gear Xiaoying and the other displaced village women normally get. Su Wan shares their exact past, having been bartered or wed off after escaping here, mostly ending up as concubines, who live constantly on the brink of starvation. But yesterday, thanks to the pork I passed along to Jio, Xiaoying finally got a taste of meat for the first time in forever, since there was such a massive haul that even the head wife handed some around. Xiaoying tells Su Wan that she's sitting pretty now. If her hubby truly has mended his ways, the good life awaits, rocking the new dress. Without a mirror around to double-check her look, Su Wan relies on. Xiaoying's jealous, gazed to know she looks great, but reflecting on just how fast and drastically I transformed. She anxiously admits, I'm not sure if this is going to last. It all feels way too quick, way too extreme. Almost like he's a whole different person. A different person? Xiaoying's husband apparently noted the exact same thing, saying that I seem totally possessed. Xiaoying drops her voice, looking legit freaked out, bringing up old rumors about brothels being packed with restless phantoms, musing aloud whether some drifting ghost secretly hijack my body. No way, that's impossible. Su Wan gulps, thoroughly rattled. Xiaoying tallies up the proof, the fresh clothes, the free meat for Air Ju's clan, and being so incredibly polite to everyone. None of this fits the old Xiaoying at all. It really points to that conclusion. Su Wan confesses, shuddering at the memory, that she eagerly snuggled into my arms last night. If an apparition truly took over my body, she pretty much welcomed it in herself. Xiaoying, who is younger than Su Wan, gets freaked out and warns that a possessing demon could be siphoning away her vital energy, gradually destroying her over time. She inquires if I've been creeping into Su Wan's bed at night. Apparently, Erju is terrified of his actual spouse, and only sneaks into Xiaoying's bed secretly after dark, tiptoeing back out right before daybreak. No, Su Wan replies, shaking her head. Good. That means it hasn't begun stealing your life force yet. Xiaoying recalls something. Supposedly, there is a shrine at the west end of a nearby town famous for fulfilling prayers that allegedly heals haunted children and folks suffering from seizures. She volunteers to slip out tomorrow to fetch a protective amulet for Su Wan, bound to banish whichever phantom is controlling me. Su Wan agrees, telling her to go right ahead. Xiaoying's been off the hook for chores for a bit, so making a break for it should be simple, and she can just use visiting as an excuse. Just don't buy a standard amulet, Su Wan interjects. What kind then? Su Wan clutches the comforter tightly, and notes with absolute gravity, get one that guarantees the former. Xiaoying never returns. The pair are right in the middle of chatting, completely unnerved by all the ghost talk, when an enraged shout echoes from outside, scaring them both stiff. Where is Xiaoying? Drag Xiaoying out here right now. I exit the apothecary and head toward the town gates, hoping to hail a passing wagon. As it happens, Xiao Dali, the chief's son, is already stationed there with his own ride. Xiaoying, over this way. His wagon is empty both ways, which makes his intentions pretty obvious. Turns out he wasn't out running errands at all. He was just waiting for me. As I hop up, done with your business? Yeah. I wasn't sure if you'd already taken off. Figured I'd take a gamble and wait around. Take a gamble. So, Sia Dali is the village chief's son, dependable and level-headed, just like his old man. Sifting through the memories in my head, the former me and him used to be incredibly tight. Honestly, he's the whole reason the old me ever got motivated to hit the books in the first place, before Jean Lazy dragged him down a darker path, and their bond completely shattered. To be fair, it's pretty lucky for me that it did. Otherwise, I'd have absolutely no clue how to even strike up a conversation with him. Midway through the ride, he brings something up. My wife went to visit her folks yesterday. Said you're thinking about studying again. I'm caught off guard for a second, but then remember his spouse is from the city, and that her little brother works at the bookstore, which means that arrogant shop assistant who threw shade at me yesterday is Sia Dali's brother-in-law. Small world. Yeah, I'm mulling it over. His wife apparently saw the transcription contract I signed and brought it up, doubting if I meant it. Looking at me now, He seems certain that I do. We go way back, so I'll get straight to the point. If you're truly serious about school, I can speak with my dad about having the village fund your tuition. That completely stuns me. I didn't foresee this gesture at all. He elaborates. The community has public savings, put away over the years. They never stepped up to sponsor the old me, since nobody trusted he would actually follow through. But now, I genuinely seem to mean business. He's totally ready to lobby his dad for it. I catch on fast to how this society works. Peasants are rated just above tradesmen, but rank way below academics and bureaucrats. Getting just a single person from our town into government service, even a low-level post, helps the entire community with lower tax rates and overall protection. Our neighborhood hasn't built up real clan clout yet, though there are easily 30 families sharing the CS last name around here. The village chief's kin aren't tight with me personally, but family ties still carry some political weight. After all, a single tree doesn't make a forest. I won't just reject some genuine kindness offered for free. Thanks, Brother Dolly. I'll give it some serious thought. Sound good? Give me a heads up when you decide. The place is close, enough that he drops me off right near my doorstep. Even before reaching the house, I spot a bunch of locals crowding my front door, stretching their necks to peer into the courtyard. What's the deal? Dolly begins to ask, but I'm already leaping off the wagon. The mob splits up the moment they see it's me. Stepping into the yard, I literally see red. I'm so pissed. A bunch of guys I recognize from that millstone mob have pinned Su One right up against the door. Xiaoying is down on the floor, clearly just taking a boot for trying to shield her. And right before my eyes, someone boots her again, aiming right for her head this time. Hey, side chick, quit poking your nose into other people's business. Beat it. Cut it out. I get between them and Su One in 2 paces, hoisting Xiaoying up from the dirt. I glare at the mob as my rage boils over. What's the meaning of this? You guys all thought you'd come harass my wife the second I stepped out. Husband. Su One gasps. She can barely prop herself up against the doorframe. The moment she spots me, her facade completely crumbles. Are you hurt? I immediately scan her for injuries, a mix of deep anxiety and fury washing over me. Did they put their hands on you? She shakes her head. They didn't strike her, but a few local women attempted to tear her brand new dress right off her back. The only reason they failed was because Xiaoying shielded her. Still reeling from that brutal kick, Xiaoying finally finds her voice now that I'm back. Xiaoying, they claim you're in debt to them. They said they were taking Su Wan's outfit as collateral. Oh, really? Collateral? Before that can even sink in, some sharp-eyed woman pushes her way forward, furious. You pay what you owe. That's just how the world works. He owes us silver, yet these freeloading refugees are parading around in fancy, store-bought threads, while the folks who actually lent him cash can't even afford a single new outfit themselves. Just how much did that set you back? Taking our money and blowing it on luxury items instead of clearing your tab? Shameless. Absolutely shameless. In 2 entire lifetimes, no one has ever hurled an insult like that straight to my face. I'd almost laugh if I weren't so incredibly pissed off. Is your blacksmith husband dead or something, that he has to send his wife out to do his barking? For him, I owe your family cash, not my damn life. You seriously think you can strip my wife naked, right in front of the entire village, and just walk away scot-free? My voice sounds so ice-cold that the blacksmith's wife actually flinches and recoils for a brief moment, but then, looking over at her husband for backup, she doubles down instead. Don't you dare threaten me. I'll rip her clothes off, right here and now if you don't fork over the cash. Try me. Something inside me snaps. I whip the wood-cutting hatchet right out of my basket, pressing it straight against her neck. The mob goes wild. Good grief, Xiaoning's got a blade. This is murder, murder. Xiaoning, chill out. Xiaoling lunges forward, trying to get between us. I shift the edge away from him without dropping my guard. I'm not budging until everyone here gets the message. Nobody messes with my wife. It all makes sense now. In this town, guys judge each other based on clout, and the women in their homes are treated with the exact same level of respect their husbands command. The old version of me apparently had zero respect from anyone here, man or woman. If I don't set some serious boundaries right now, in front of the whole crowd, Su One and I will be walked all over for the rest of our days. Hey, blacksmith, if you've actually got the guts to man up, let's settle this score between us directly, right here and now. Otherwise, leave your wife out of it. If she gets hurt while I'm defending myself, that's not on me. The blacksmith can't hide behind the onlookers anymore. He steps out, glaring with his head high, acting like he's the victim. Xiaoning, the contract is right here in print. Either pay up right now, or hand over the 3 acres you put up as collateral. So that's what this is really about. And for the very first time, I don't blame the only one bit. His folks passed away right after each other, leaving the house empty. And at 19, he wasn't about to bury them in straw. Mats without proper coffins. He borrowed 5 taels from the blacksmith for decent caskets, offering up the family's only fertile land, those 3 acres, as security. Debts need to be paid. That's only fair. I owe your family silver, but I don't owe you anything personally beyond that. I keep my tone even, distinct, and loud enough for everyone to hear. I borrowed 5 taels from my parents' coffins, backed by 3 acres of collateral, and agreed to 10% monthly interest, 300 coins a month. And I've never missed a single installment. So tell me, why did your wife think she could come over and insult Mine? And now you're here trying to grab the property. Flat out, on top of everything you pocketed already? That's quite the little racket you've got going. The crowd goes wild again. Turns out no one knew the loan was actually a land mortgage with insane interest rates. And a few folks suddenly recollect spotting the blacksmith and his wife gathering crops on that very piece of property last autumn. They assumed back then they were just lending a hand. Turns out they weren't helping out at all. They were harvesting their own yield from land they had already claimed as their own. The onlookers start ripping into the blacksmith now. Word is he's been quietly pulling this on other locals too, acting all charitable for lending out funeral money, while secretly snatching up their prime fields behind closed doors. Someone brings up a time the blacksmith refused to loan cash to his sick child's family last year, finally realizing exactly why he had already sunk that capital into other people's property instead. Cut the chatter, just hand it over, the blacksmith barks, his tone turning nasty. I don't blink. Produce the title deed, and I will square things up to the last cent. He's already got the deed on him, clearly showing up today, expecting to confiscate the property outright, never guessing I'd actually pay. The onlookers lose it again just at the figure alone. 5 taels of silver. That's more hard cash than anyone in this town, save for the chief's household, could scratch up on the spot. Suddenly, it clicks for everyone. Why I've been too swamped to chat lately. I really did strike gold. I catch Adley gawk at me like he's looking at a stranger. He'd honestly been terrified that cash in my pockets would just mean a quicker trip straight back to the brothel. Yet look at me go. Clearing my debts and seemingly hitting the books for real. Just a few days, and I'm a totally different guy to him. Hand over the deed. I demand, holding my hand out. The blacksmith's face drops as he passes it over, but he still tries one last trick, muttering that the month is nearly up, hinting that he wants another month's interest added on. But Dolly immediately jumps in to back me up. He doesn't owe you a dime for March, and he sure as hell isn't paying for April in advance. I empty my pockets, pulling out 2 small silver pieces of full 5 tael coin, and a whole handful of loose change. I hand the 5 taels straight to Dolly, asking him to step in as our official witness, and personally take back my family's land deed. Partly so the blacksmith can't pull any shady moves with everyone watching, and partly because I'm glad to give Dolly this kind of public spotlight. As the village chief's son, he needs these wins. Dolly catches the silver, looking surprised before turning a harsh glare on the blacksmith. The deed, and the IOU. The blacksmith begrudgingly fishes out the loan note, and Dolly rips it right from his fingers, before the guy can even hand it over properly. Right then, the blacksmith's wife pipes up again, whining that 5 taels just won't cut it, claiming we shook on an extra 3 months of interest and demanding 1 more tael. A single month's interest was already twice the legal limit. 3 extra months on top of that would be 900 coins, which is still 100 short of full tael anyway. She can't even do the basic math. Several villagers shoot her looks of pure disgust. I'm unplaying nice. I toss the copper coins all over the dirt right at her feet and say coldly, just empty bluffs to wring more cash out of me. Are you really that desperate for dough? Hey, old hag, crouch down and grab it yourself. I use my heel to grind a coin right into the dirt. Total dead silence. It's so quiet you can literally hear a throat swallow. No one saw this coming. Some guy who spent his whole life getting picked on suddenly whips out a blade and completely degrades a whole damn family in a single afternoon. Even Dolly's brain shorts out for a brief second, right until he notices the look I'm giving him. This is a shot to step up, not try to smooth things over. If he's ever going to succeed his old man as village chief, then this is precisely the kind of drama he needs to deal with head-on, instead of playing the fence. The blacksmith's face turns completely pale. Not only did his land grab totally tank, but he's lost every single bit of respect in front of the entire town. His wife gapes at the coins on the ground, clearly tempted, and begins leaning down, only to get violently kicked by her own spouse. Pick that up. Have some dignity. Get inside now. When they finally clear out, the courtyard falls awkwardly still. I turn around to check how Suwon is doing, and right then, a faint voice pipes up from the onlookers. Hey, Xianing, you owe me some cash too. Me too. Think back to before New Year's. You borrowed 200 coins from my place. You owe my folks 100 coins. And mine. I pretty much lose my mind right there. Just how many people did the original me actually borrow from? Luckily, Dolly jumps in to handle the chaos. If you actually loaned him cash, speak up. If you didn't, shut your mouths and stop freeloading. Debts need to be settled, fair and square. And given that I'm the one trapped in this body now, I'm the guy on the hook. For the next few minutes, I'm coughing up, handing out cash to practically the whole village. 100 here, 200 there, 50, 30, until I'm bled totally. Dry and literally have to scoop my own loose change. Up off the dirt just to square the rest. Right as the mob is finally clearing out, someone yanks my sleeve, so I glance down. It's Dolly's 5-year-old kid, flush-faced and crying, staring up at me dead serious. Uncle Ning, you still owe me 5 coins. That was my New Year's cash from Grandma, and you promised to pay me back. He owed me seriously. Ripped off a tiny toddler for his holiday pocket money. I honestly don't even know what to say about how shameless this dude was. I wipe my face, trying to play the part of a mature adult for a second, and count out 10 coins through clenched teeth. Here, your 5 coins back, plus 5 extra for being so patient. The kid beams, showing a gap-toothed smile, and does a dramatic bow. Thanks, Uncle Ning. All right, go play. Dolly pats his boy's head, clearly trying his best not to burst out laughing. Dude, just laugh if you're gonna laugh. I tell him, totally annoyed. He loses it completely, cracking up so hard I can practically see down his throat. Just when I think today's tabs are finally cleared, Zhang Lizi pushes through the remaining stragglers, glaring at me with pure bitterness. Xiaoning, you can reimburse a 5-year-old. So what about what you owe me? Man, this nonsense truly never ends. If it were anyone else demanding cash right now, I probably would have just shelled it out to be done with it. But not this guy. I point at myself, then at him, my voice dripping with sheer disbelief. I owe you money. Zhang. Lizi is the exact type who only picks fights he knows he can win, fully aware of that Dolly. Acting like my bodyguard, but he's low-key, green with envy watching. Half the locals walk off with my cash. So he still pushes it. Come on, you owe me. Who do you think covered your whorehouse trips? The moment that word whorehouse drops, someone's expression completely shifts. I whip around and catch her staring, totally stunned. The denial flies out of my mouth before I can even think. I never went there. Oh, you never went? Then who was begging me to take him just to see what it was like? Xianing, don't forget where you came from. Forget your mothers. That's it. I'm done. I grab the logging cleaver and chuck it without even blinking, the blade slamming into the ground an inch from his toes. The handle is still shaking from the impact. Zhang Lizi nearly jumps out of his boots. 3 inches to the left, and that thing would have pinned his foot to the floor. Beat it now. Say one more word, and I'll flay you myself. Everyone in the courtyard, Dolly included, is visibly rattled. The old me was a wimp who backed down from a fight. But here I am now, throwing blades without a second thought. To them, I'm a totally different person. Xianing, you. Dolly actually looks terrified for a split second. Village beefs happen all the time, but nobody actually wants a corpse on their hands. He pulls me back and barks at Zhang Lizi to get lost. Once the crowd finally disperses, Dolly turns back to me, looking dead serious. Think over what we discussed today. He's talking about the village sponsoring my education. He really backed me up today, and pooling resources is always better than flying solo. I will, Brother Dolly. He sighs. I know how badly the blacksmith's family behaved, but if you're serious about passing these exams, you gotta check that temper a bit. Don't lose the watermelon chasing after a sesame seed. Drop it, it's just not worth it. An academic's name is everything, after all. Yeah, I've got that part down. Still, there's a stubborn streak in me that just won't quit. I catch your drift, Brother Dolly. Look, a guy can swallow a lot of crap in this life, but some lines are just meant to never be crossed. They could drag my own name through the mud all they want, but I draw the line at anyone disrespecting my wife. Sighing, he cuts the lecture short and walks away. I guide Suwon indoors, try to quiet her fears. No one's pushing us around ever again, I swear it. She gives a nod, still visibly trembling from the day's scare. The sheer dread of being stripped bare in public. No matter how you look at it, even as a ruined bureaucrat's daughter, she'd choose death over facing that kind of shame. Husband. With that, she finally blurts out the question she's obviously been holding back. Where on earth did we get our hands on this kind of cash? This time, I break it down for her straight. Stumbled on a dead deer up in the peaks. Sold the thing, used the cash for groceries, and squared the bills. It's all totally legit. An obvious wave of relief washes over her knowing it's honest money. The waterworks start up again, her nose turning pink. She gazes up at me with this fragile and absolutely heartbreaking look. She's barely even 18, yet she's my spouse, properly registered and sealed by the local magistrates. Before I even realize what I'm doing, I gather her into my arms. The very instant her body makes contact with mine, the two of us freeze up for a fleeting split second, and then something deep inside me anchors. I'm just a reincarnated spirit trapped in an unfamiliar world, while she's a girl whose whole existence has been dictated by the whims of others. Yet against all odds, our destinies got intertwined anyway. Gently running a hand through her hair, I murmur, Soo-won, I've got your back for as long as I draw breath. No one will ever lay a finger on you again. Leaning in this close, she listens to my heartbeat and feels something steady, finally settled deep within her soul after such a long time. Silently, to herself, she thinks, I don't really know who you are anymore, but I'll trust whatever you tell me. Financially speaking, the numbers look pretty rough, 12 taels from the venison. Mine is 7 for those funeral costs, and under a tael spent on groceries and clothing. I'm left with just over 3 taels total. We've got no table. The house is a total fixer-upper, and I've got test preps staring me down. Even though the drugstore contract is pretty much a done deal, I shouldn't bank on cash that isn't actually in my pocket yet. Money, money, money. Everything takes cash. Once the mob clears out, I notice they completely busted the front door right off its frame. Amidst the mess, I throw out the shattered timber, tidy up the courtyard, and then grab some remaining medicinal plants and a thick cut of pork to head over to Erju's place. It's mostly to show some gratitude to Xiaoying for taking a blow, to keep Soin safe. As it happens, neither Erju nor his wife are at home, and Xiaoying is way too spooked to even crack the door. She just whispers a couple of words through the crack before falling silent, so I just leave the items on the porch and walk back home without pressing her. Her husband is out. She's a concubine playing it safe. And besides, I have my own spouse waiting for me anyway. Following a quick bite to eat, I hole up in the kitchen. The grading system around here operates pretty much how I figured it would. The first roadblock is securing your scholar credentials, which means passing a local district test, as well as a regional one before you are even permitted to sit for the actual scholar evaluation. District assessments usually take place in February, but this year's horrific blizzard delayed the whole schedule, at least for what I can recall. The rescheduled date is set for early April. That leaves me less than 20 days for the required reading. The 4 books and the 5 classics. The Analects, the Great Learning, the Book of Rites, the Spring and Autumn Annals, and the Book of Songs. We're talking over 100,000 characters total. Even with my lifelong experience as a standardized cramming machine back home, memorizing all this on such a tight deadline is brutal. Whatever, I've made my choice. Time to grind. Once I lock into study mode, nothing short of an apocalypse can distract me. I hole up in the kitchen all afternoon, until it's pitch black by the time I finally look up. By then, I have the entire doctrine of the mean down cold. Even while lying in bed that night, my mind keeps racing through the text, completely missing Soo-won's timid glances and her attempts to chat. The next morning, well before the sun is even up, I've already cooked breakfast and finished transcribing the manuscript from the bookstore, leaving the food in the pot. I tell Soo-won not to wait up, then bolt for the mountains before she can even reply. I desperately need cash, and until the pharmacy contract is officially signed, foraging for herbs remains my only real source of income. I've got a fire in my belly lately, the likes of which I haven't felt since arriving here. I'm already halfway down the mountain, before most of the villagers have even eaten breakfast. Erju's cart, piled high with logs, catches up with me. Morning, Brother Rugio. I hop aboard without a second thought, heading back to town for the pharmacy, and to drop off my transcriptions at the bookstore. Glad to see you're finally on the right track, he says, sounding genuinely choked up about it. And that's when I spot a fresh gash on his face. Man, what's up with your face? Word is he's completely losing it. That blacksmith and his wife dropped by his place yesterday afternoon, tried to intimidate them, and even striking Erju's wife. So he and his spouse headed right over, and absolutely thrashed both of them, to pay them back. You seriously didn't hear all that shouting yesterday? I honestly didn't. I was cooped up in the kitchen, studying all day, totally spaced out. Your lady got thrown into the mix too? I'm cracking up already. Turns out his wife was the one who threw down first, literally pinning the blacksmith's wife to the ground and wailing on her. Erju only took a hit because he attempted to drag her away before she did some serious damage. I lose it just imagining his wife going total beast mode. Once we hit town, Erju splits to sell some logs, while I head straight for the apothecary. The merchant seems shocked to catch sight of me. That purging blend requires a full week to show any progress. What brings you back so fast? I flash a smirk. I can hold out for the results, but I can't wait on making cash. Brought a fresh harvest today to secure my pay. He chuckles, labeling me a greedy little hustler, and hands me off to his assistant to have everything measured and calculated. That's 218 coins in total. Want to verify it? The kid inquires. No need. But before I can even tuck it away, Dr. Wu comes rushing out from the back quarters, his face beaming like he just ran into his own kin. Excellent timing. Follow me to check on some test subjects. Resting in the rear clinic. 7 sick people of all different ages rest on cots. Dr. Wu indicates a pair of incredibly wasted men, with skin riddled with ulcers. These 2 are in the worst shape. I gave them acupuncture this morning. Their pulse is still all over the place. See? I take a seat to check their pulses myself, which just backs up what Dr. Wu mentioned. The dependency has hit both of them hard. I ask about their appetite and breathing and if those ulcers are itchy. The first guy answers straight up. He eats just fine. But lying down feels like a boulder is crushing his chest. The sores don't ache or itch whatsoever. The second guy, who's older, says pretty much the same, except today's new dose made the skin around his ulcers hurt like hell, way worse than the younger guy. I press the inflamed tissue right by his sores. Does it hurt here? Yeah, right there. I grab an acupuncture needle and prick it right along the edge of the ulcer. How about here? No pain at all. That tells me everything. The toxicity has already spread straight into his vital organs. The surface breakouts are just his body trying to flush the venom out. But the internal damage is way beyond what's happening on the skin level. He notices my expression turn grim and panics. Young man, what does that mean? Am I going to die? Avoiding a direct answer, I look over at Dr. Wu instead. The venom has already penetrated his core organs. Standard detox remedies won't be fast enough at this point. Mind if I take charge of this patient? These folks already signed liability waivers to try out the treatment for free. The facility provides them 3 meals a day. And if they pass away, their king get 300 coins. Their lives are in your hands to treat however you like. Dr. Wu strokes his beard, his eyes gleaming with pure fascination rather than dread. Just like a fan catching their favorite soap opera live. I pivot toward the assistant. Give me 1 tail of camphor powder, 2 tails of finely crushed honeysuckle, and grab 2 flat-bladed knives, forceps, scissors, and a bucket of boiling water. The names of the herbs don't spook anyone, but the knives, scissors, and scalding water definitely do. Scissors, forceps, boiling water, and a blade. What on earth is he trying to do to me? The elderly patient grips Dr. Wu's arm, flat out refusing to let go. Doc, I don't want to die. Yeah, I signed that release. But that doesn't mean you can slice me up like livestock. That sudden panic rattles every single patient in the room. And folks outside start poking their heads in out of curiosity. Over on a different bed, a guy named Xiao Erua eyes me intently. He works as a local officer, hooked on the stuff years back, while trying to suck up to a boss. Unlike the rest of the crowd here, he isn't broke or desperate. He's only checking in because whenever withdrawals hit, it totally wrecks his actual police duties. It feels like ants are eating him alive from the inside out. Now that the substance is totally outlawed, even a cop caught using it would ruin his entire family's life by law. So this dispensary is pretty much his sole remaining shot. He already downed a dose of medicine this morning and took 2 herbal pills at lunchtime. The crawling and pain in his limbs have calmed down quite a bit. But seeing Dr. Wu bring some random young kid around, who's gearing up to slice into the patient right beside him, his hands squeeze into tight fists under the covers. Waiver or no waiver, no one is bringing a blade near him without a serious fight. Right in the neighboring spot, an old lady named Annie Zhang feels that exact same dread. She first hooked up at the dope back in the day to pull all-nighters, grinding over needlework, all to scrape up cash for her kids' tuition. Cut to now. The stuff's illegal, her stash is tapped out, and she went ahead and secretly signed a release behind her boy's back, bracing for the absolute worst while watching a live operation unfold right before her eyes. Knowing she could be the next one on the slab has got her breaking out in a cold sweat, chest pounding. Doctor, old Doc Wu. The whole place is in absolute chaos now. Andy Zhang is literally begging Doc Wu not to slaughter anyone, reminding the crowd they only signed up for drug trials, not to get carved up. The cop is backing her play too, words already spilling out into the front lobby. And in just a few minutes, the gossip snowballed from a minor medical treatment into this clinic is literally slicing up patients piece by piece. Man, rumors seriously travel fast. I take a look at the sea of faces, jammed up against the glass. and totally lose my cool. Cut the whining. Before Doc Wu can even step up to clear the air, I pin the guy's shoulder down and stuff a rag straight into his mouth. Before he can bark out another word, I snap. I'm trying to fix you up here. Keep yelling that I'm trying to torture you. And maybe I actually will. Start hacking real flesh off those skinny bones of yours. Well, that blew up in my face big time. Now half the room is fully convinced. I'm legit about to start harvesting folks for parts. Some dude outside even proposes calling the cops on us, until another person points out that there is an actual lawman stretched out right there in the clinic, watching the entire drama unfold. Doc Wu just stands there, old and unfazed, is totally unbothered by all this. He's well aware that detox meds alone haven't been doing the trick for these bad cases. Honestly, he's just been waiting for this exact moment, for someone who actually knows the next step. He pats my shoulder. Everything is set. It's your show now. I move fast, securing the man's arms and legs to the bed, which probably looks to the crowd watching a whole lot like prepping someone for death row. Instead of saving them, I rip his shirt open, feel around the biggest infected mass on his chest, and size up its location. Grabbing the flat blade, I say, "Relax, this won't hurt much. Stay still." This tool is basically the closest thing this era has to a proper scalpel. It's pretty primitive compared to my training, but a million times better than using a carving knife. See, when toxins pool beneath the skin like this, they clump up into thick, blackened masses right under the surface, stuff the body can't filter out fast enough on its own. I slice in. The blood flows red at first, but quickly turns dark, and I extract a solid, fist-sized chunk of clotted black venom right out from under his skin. He doesn't feel a thing, but his eyes pop so wide. I'm legit worried they'll burst out of his skull. The blood. Why is it pitch black? What even is that? He literally just pulled a black mass out of his chest. Xiao, the officer, has a front row seat to the whole thing, and completely freezes up. He never for a second imagined that the narcotic could breed something so grotesque inside a human body. I keep working, yanking black clots out of his chest one by one, then moving to his neck, armpits, groin, and finally his arms and legs, clearing out every main lymphatic node. By the time I reach his groin, even Annie Zhang is too transfixed to look away out of politeness, just totally mesmerized watching those dark lumps ooze out. It's like watching someone squeeze a blackhead, only massive and completely gross. Along the powder, the assistant scrambles over with the herbal mix. Sterilization gear is basically non-existent in this day and age, but since I'm not making any deep incisions and only draining superficial blockages, the threat of infection remains pretty low, provided the remedy is applied. Without delay, I quickly call out the next prescription. 5-finger peach root, plantain, atractalodes, groundsel, ginseng. I wash my hands and address Dr. Wu. Extreme scenarios call for extreme measures. With toxins buried this deep in the bone, we have to combine oral meds with topical treatment. Take the new medicine thrice a day, and we'll purge the congestion again every 10 days. And when will he be completely cured? The apprentice is just standing there, totally awestruck, gazing at me as if I'm some sort of god. A full recovery takes time and varies by patient. He's been using this stuff for years. Still, the surface toxins are gone today, so he ought to feel a whole lot better by tonight. The patient blinks, gradually coming to like snapping out of trance. His cot is covered in blood, with fresh cuts all over his torso, neck, and limbs. Yet, incredibly, he's alive, not even hurting, and that heavy pressure on his chest that he's complained about for years has already eased up big time. Everyone in the room is goggling at me, like they just witnessed a straight-up miracle. This kid looks like he's barely 18 or 19. How's he got medical skills like that? Zhao Ruo's hand touches a growth on his own throat. It's the same kind of tumor, just way smaller than the one pulled out of this dude. If a crazy case like this can be cured, then surely his... Annie Zhang is thinking the exact same thing. Her condition is actually the mildest here, seeing as she barely had cash for the meds anyway. But if this stuff really works, she might actually keep paying for her boys' school. Honestly, every single patient in this room who used to stress that the clinic was just letting them die on the cheap with that waiver now sees it's completely the opposite. This isn't some death warrant. It's a contract, wiping their names right off the Grim Reaper's list. I can actually be saved. I'm gonna live. Yeah, you'll live, I tell him, giving him a totally bored look. Hey, want a pot for all that flesh I just sliced off? Oh, savior. You saved my life. You're basically a second father to me. He struggles to get out of bed, to kowtow and thank me properly. I catch his arm before he can move. Don't. I'm way too young for that kind of bow. Lay back down, or you'll completely wreck everything we just did. That warning works like a charm. He drops straight back onto the mattress, terrified of messing up his own recovery. I instruct the apprentice to keep his food light. From now on, porridge with minced meat if possible. The guy's just staring at me, totally blanking out, so I snap my hand right in front of his face. Yo, I'm talking to you. Complete starstruck silence. He didn't catch a single word. Light meals for dinner, I repeat, as the doctor nudges him. Did you even jot down the prescription CNN gave? Nope, he didn't. To spare him another beating, I just grab a pen and write it down myself. By the time I'm finished, the shopkeeper's already heard everything. Second hand from the crowd. Apparently, Unj Hall now has a miracle young doctor. Working out of the back room. The detox partnership is basically locked in after today. No question. He looks at me with even more open admiration now. Sienning, gathering herbs is no real career. Why not just take a position here? Same pay as Dr. Wu. 5 taels a month. He holds up 5 fingers like he's dangling bait. 5 taels a month is genuinely solid money. By local standards. But I already know exactly how I kicked the bucket in my past life. Working myself to death over an operating table. And I'm not about to get a second shot at life. Just to repeat the same mistake. I'm happy to use medical skills for side cash. But becoming a full-time physician again? Hard pass. I appreciate the offer, but it's not the path I want. Then what do you want? Dr. Wu is genuinely confused, especially given how fluently I diagnosed and prescribed for completely different cases today, smoother than he manages after a lifetime of practice. He's clearly suspicious of my whole wandering monk. Give me a book story by now, too. I lay it out plainly. A doctor saves one person at a time, but a court official saves a whole nation. Treating the sick is good. Honorable work, but I want a different path. That hits harder than I expected. Dr. Wu goes quiet, genuinely moved, confessing he spent years since the narcotics crisis hit, trying to figure out how to actually tackle the root cause, rather than just slapping Band-Aids on patients one by one. But at the end of the day, he's just a physician with limited reach. If I can actually rank high enough in the imperial exams, I could do a hell of a lot more good than he ever could. Stuck right here, I just nod along with him, secretly fully aware that I'm mostly just feeding him what he wants to hear, instead of what is strictly the truth. Look, I'm not driven by some noble calling to rescue the empire. I'm practical to the bone, especially seeing how completely this dynasty is already crumbling from the grassroots up. The imperial court itself is undeniably corrupt and a total mess. I have zero desire to play the part of some heroic reformer, but remaining a physician forever, even a brilliant one, leaves me wide open. A single political shakeup, one powerful enemy, and a doctor's title won't protect you from anything. Taking the exam route is simply the smarter, long-term strategy for self-preservation. The two of them look completely captivated, the old man and the storekeeper, both practically beaming with second-hand idealism, while I quietly relish the fact that I managed to say the exact right thing, totally by fluke. The entire treatment took nearly an hour. I passed on having lunch with them since I need to drop off my handwritten manuscripts over at the bookstore. Stepping outside, people are staring at me like I'm facing an interrogation. Word has already gotten around about the miracle doctor, and 2 middle-aged ladies literally hunt me down, right on the street, barking to know if I'm single. I seriously have to sprint 2 whole blocks to ditch them. In the bazaar area, right behind the drugstore, I buy a baked flatbread and just stroll around for a bit. I pause at a booth. How much for these silk flowers? 8 coins apiece. I select a pale, yellow one, the very same shade as the undergarments Sue one had on when I first mended her bones, plus a blue one as well, to match her new outfit. 2 for 10 coins, 10. The merchant chuckles. You drive a hard bargain for an academic. Following a bit of haggling, she gives in to the charm offensive, letting both go for 12. Silk flower hair accessories are pretty much the ancient equivalent of cheap hair trinkets, just wire molded into floral patterns, since ordinary women can't afford genuine gold or silver ornaments. Still, they're gorgeous in their own way. Stashing the flowers away, I'm already imagining how lovely she'll look in one. My wife is honestly a total knockout. Radiant eyes, a slender waist, and long legs. She has the kind of face that would thrive, even back in modern times. The only catch is that I'm just holding cheap silk, not authentic jewelry. A genuine hairpin would be so much better. The bookstore is just around the bend, so I take my sweet time along the path. I pass by a pawn shop that doubles as a jeweler's, and decide to pop in. Gold is out of the question, but silver might be worth checking out. And if not today, there's always down the line, once I actually have some real income flowing. As I stroll inside, the shopkeeper doesn't even bother to greet me. He clearly pegs me as just another penniless scholar, not worth his time, and leaves me to look around by myself. There are no glass display boxes around, merely cordoned-off areas behind the front counter, where everything is fully visible, but completely out of reach. After wandering the store a bit, it hits me. All those historical dramas about concubines plotting for the king's affection were never actually about the guy. It was always about getting their hands on jewelry like this. The counters are packed with silver hairpins carved like clouds, beautifully set with white jade and agate. Mika turmalina truligurjoj kravmanship. Even for a boutique this far from the capital. If this is the kind of jewelry a middle of nowhere. Spot stocks, I can't even fathom what the real aristocratic houses are rocking. Excuse me, how much for that piece? I gestured toward a silver hairpin, featuring a dangling white jade charm. 3 taels, the clerk replies. 3? The silver by itself barely weighs a single tael. And that jade trinket looks like leftover scrap from a larger carving. Production cost probably doesn't even hit 2 taels. Classic price gouging. How about this one? I indicated a palm-sized jade medallion. That one's pricier, 13 taels. I browse my way through pretty much every white jade item in the place. The counter guy remains patient throughout the whole ordeal. No eye-rolling whatsoever, which I respect. Fingering the jade amulet I've been keeping tucked in my sleeve, I inquire casually, is this place linked to the pawn shop next door? Same proprietor. Since no one else is around, he lets his guard down a bit. Same boss, yeah? You looking to hawk something, scholar? Tons of folks lately are pawning anything they own, even their bedding. Just to scrape up a couple of coins for dinner, no doubt. I probed further. Do you guys require proof of ownership for items? Well, obviously, if it's hot merchandise the feds are actively tracking down, we won't touch it. Mental translation. Anything blacklisted gets rejected on the spot. But otherwise, they don't dig too deep into the details. Could you take a look at this? And give me an appraisal. I place the jade piece on the counter, but the clerk keeps a straight face. He flips it over a few times to inspect the quality. This has some value, but I need the boss to verify it. If you're actually looking to hawk it, mind if I take it to the back? Sure. Go ahead. I end up waiting nearly an hour, honestly wondering if they've swapped it for something cheaper. Behind that curtain, before the guy finally returns. Hey, scholar. Are you selling this for good, or just a temporary pawn? What's the difference? He steals a glance at the back room, choosing his words carefully. An outright sale. Gets you 20 taels cash right now, done deal. But buying it back later is pretty much off the table. A temporary pawn gets you 10 taels. With 100 coins, monthly interest. That's 10 times the usual rate either way. Meaning the jade isn't worth nearly what I figured. Which actually clears up a doubt for me. If it's not a priceless treasure, then it's probably not a liability either. I had originally planned to keep it around for a rainy day, but if it's not worth that much, there's really no danger in getting rid of it now. Besides, thinking back to that guy I patched up by the city gates, he was clearly some sort of professional fighter. Would anyone on a high-stakes mission actually carry such an obvious status symbol on them, let alone hand it over to some random stranger? Even if that stranger did just save his life, it just doesn't add up. It's likely just a pretty trinket, nothing more. So I sell it outright, take the money, and make a front line for the bookstore. The shopkeeper compares my calligraphy with the initial sample I provided, hands over the 100 coins as promised, and I sign a fresh contract to copy the complete text. Transcribing text, then I just chill in the store, skimming through old test papers for free. The price tags on these fluctuate wildly, mostly depending on the author's status. The high-end, elite expert commentary remains closely guarded within influential clans, yet pretty much anything circulating publicly is written by at least minor, successful graduates who have some clout. Even at that grade, I'm completely hooked. My initial obstacle is just passing the county test. Come April, those heavy-duty essays and formal core prose only matter way down the line. Once you actually become a certified academic, grabbing a volume of past prefecture exam prompts, I completely lose track of time reading it, totally tuned out to the employee, who is aggressively coughing right next to me, by the time I wrap up the following volume. Yet more book of rights text to copy and memorize. It's midday already. Pardon me, I'm ready to pay. Strictly speaking, these study guides are well beyond what the county and prefecture tests demand. Those focus solely on a basic grasp of the 4 books, and 5 classics, plus basic math. But honestly, I don't mind that at all. Much of the breakdown here aligns with my own views. Anyway, the worker, dozing off behind the desk, grabs the books from my hands, figuring I'm just window shopping like all the rest, who never buy a thing. He yawns out the total. 1 tael, 300. I fish out some cash. The exact instant He notices the blend of silver and copper in my palm. He jerks wide awake. He'd been looking down on me as just another broke student this entire time, and obviously hadn't anticipated real cash. He begins wrapping up the books in oil paper, acting suddenly modest. So, you know Sia Dally, right? Yeah, he's family. An older cousin. I watch him fumble through this abrupt change of heart and smirk. You're his brother-in-law. Yeah, that's me. My sister's married to the guy. Name's Lucci. He rubs his head, feeling awkward about his previous behavior. That whole attitude before wasn't meant for you. Too many folks lately just loiter around here, reading for free. That's all. No stress, I totally get it. Got anything you'd like me to send? Over to your sister and brother-in-law, since I'm heading back to the village. Glancing at the kid, 13, maybe 14, I'm not gonna hold a grudge against a kid that young. Nothing, actually. Dally hits uptown pretty often anyway. All right, stay safe. I bid him farewell and step out. So preoccupied that I ignore where I'm stepping and crash right into someone blocking the entrance. Watch your step. Are you blind or wait? Hold up. Sini. I blink, recognizing the face. The original me's cousin, Sia Yazu. You're Sia Yazu? What are you even doing here? He seems utterly stunned to spot me at a bookstore, surrounded by a few other guys in scholar attire. Local students, by the looks of them. What else does anyone do at a bookstore? Besides buying books? Use them for firewood. I brush him off and try to push past, but he cuts me off again. Oh, I see how it is. His whole vibe turns incredibly smug. You're tracking me down to hit me up for cash again, aren't you? Honestly, just hearing the word borrow makes me cringe at this point. And naturally, this particular cousin's immediate reaction is pure scorn. The original host's cousin, his uncle's son, apparently always detested him. Or to be more precise, he looked down on him his entire life. Like a good dog, don't block the path. Get moving. I have absolutely zero patience left for this nonsense. As I attempt to bypass him, he doubles down with a smug smirk. Just admit you came to beg for money, didn't you? You can't even say it to my face now. I seriously don't even know how to respond to that. We might share a last name, but we clearly don't share a single brain cell between the two of us. I look over the group barring my way. The three of them look completely spent, with heavy dark circles under their eyes, basically wasted from boozing and chasing women. Sure, the original me was a brothel-hopping degenerate, but Sia Yaozu is apparently no better. Let me check my memories. The pair of them used to run into each other at brothels. All the time, neither one in a position to judge the other. Both equally broke and utterly useless. Except one drank in a private lounge, while the other gambled for chump change in the main hall. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Standing right beside Yaozu in pricey silk is a guy I barely recognize. The son of the owner of competing pharmacy. Last name Peng. Yaozu is loudly making a scene, claiming, I'm here to corner him for a handout, which is really just him flexing in front of his buddies by ripping on me. I don't have time for this crap. I push my shoulders straight through him. Good dogs don't block the path. Move aside. I nail him straight in the stomach, and he folds in half, completely mute. He's way too proud to make a peep in front of his buddies, but he's clearly hurting big time. Yaz. You good? One asks, as he forces out a reply through gritted teeth. I'm Fine. He glares right at my back, gnashing his teeth. Man, I should have checked the calendar before stepping out of the house today. Bumping into this guy is straight up bad luck. Pang Jishin smirks. Your cousin is pretty interesting, though. Usually, he blanks you completely, but today he actually hits up a bookstore. What was he even doing in there? Didn't seem like he hit you up for cash. Why else would he be hanging around here? Yaozu doubles down. He definitely came to buy some trashy smut mags. The only reason he backed off the loan request was because his crew was watching. Another guy in the crew, who looks pretty sickly and clearly broke himself, disagrees mildly, saying he actually spotted me buying actual books. Maybe he's actually hitting the books. No shot, Yaozu retorts, demanding they check with the shopkeeper to settle the bet. What did that dude just buy? He hollers. Was it some dirty comic books? Lou, who is still clicking his abacus at the counter, doesn't even look up. He caught the whole conversation and is pretty annoyed seeing the original me's own blood relation clique up with outsiders just to trash him. Mind your mouth. He bought a whole set of study guides. Set him back half a tail. Are you guys buying something or what? Quit crowding my entrance. I've got a business to run here. Meanwhile, completely unrelated to this drama, the owner of the jewelry shop walked straight over to the back entrance of the Li property. Li Wu, you've done a great job. The official inside remarks. Had you not spotted the friction stirring among the northern clans and tipped off General Chien just in time, those folks near bitching would have paid the price. The injured officer in that bed, Li Wu, the guy I patched up, is seriously pissed about how emergency grain supplies, allocated for the famine-hit areas, keep getting skimmed off at every turn, long before hitting the hands of anyone in actual need, and how those 3 towns would have been wiped off the map if the northern marauders had broken through as well. Nothing can be done about that now. The official Liang Jichong mutters grimly. An entire territory rests on my shoulders. Acts of God, I can handle, but General Yang and his whole battalion, saving them was simply beyond me. Li Wu is absolutely furious, bringing up General Yang's unjust execution. Dead certain he was set up, given that the Yang family forces were way too elite to have actually lost that clash with the clans. A year ago, the house steward bursts in, dripping sweat. He went ahead and hocked the jade pendant. Li Wu's expression contorts, part agony from his gash, and part sheer shock. Did my jade piece seriously look that worthless? How much did you fork over to him? The boutique jeweler, already chewed out once over this, blurs out 20 taels standard going rate, seeing as he had zero clue who the token belonged to. When it arrived, Li Wu, torn between cracking up and blowing his top, realizes that piece is ancestral lineage jewelry, commissioned annually for the whole clan. 20 taels is a total joke, and to top it off, it was pawned right at his own family's broker shop, implying he's got zero way to hunt down the guy now. Who actually saved his life? Did you even catch his name? Or where he lives, the shopkeeper, already spooked from getting chewed out earlier, has Zilchi honestly forgot to ask. Liao Jichong strokes his beard, finding the whole thing kind of funny. No use crying over spilled milk. If anything, this shows what the guy's made of. Your family crest is famous enough that anyone paying attention would know exactly whose massive favor they could cash in. The guy clearly had no intention of using that leverage for anything, but now I have no way to track him down. Li Wu is completely at a loss. If that scholar hadn't pulled him through, he'd be a goner. He waited around for days, half expecting someone to show up with that token, just so he could properly pay back his savior. Now, figuring out, the piece wasn't worth nearly as much as he thought. To a regular outsider, he guesses, the man must really be hurting for cash, since he pawned the thing instead of keeping it. Before anyone can even process that, the house steward comes bursting back inside, completely winded, having just seen the disappointed jeweler out the door a minute ago. What's the matter? Where are your manners? Liao Jichong barks. The steward is practically beaming. My lord, news just arrived from a clinic. They've actually cured the addiction. Wait, what? Liao Jichong blurts out before Li Wu can even blink. You're telling me the toxic dependency is totally gone? Yes, sir, absolutely 100% true. Fantastic. Just brilliant. The heavens smile upon this empire. Liao Jichong always believed in Dr. Wu's talent, but never expected him to crack it. A puzzle that baffled the Royal Medical Court for 6 whole months. Thrilled, he grips the manager's arm way too tightly. Bring Dr. Wu to me right this minute. I need to know every detail of this remedy. The manager winces from the crushing grasp. But sir, it wasn't Dr. Wu who figured it out. Dr. Wu hails from a long line of healers. His ancestors held the crown's top medical post for 3 consecutive generations, even without an official title at court. There's honestly no finer physician in the whole Northwest. Both men freeze. Then who was it? Meanwhile, totally oblivious that I just missed linking up with one of the most influential figures around. I'm making my way back to the hamlet, my head completely full of thoughts about how Su-Won will react to the silk blossoms. I'm home. How are you holding up today? The moment I cross the threshold, Xiaoying leaps off the mattress like she's seen a phantom, and in broad daylight, no less. Oh, sister-in-law is here as well. I offer courteously. Thanks once more for looking out for my wife yesterday. How is your wound? It's just honest, straightforward appreciation spoken openly before Su-Won. Yet Xiaoying is starting to break out in a cold sweat, actual beads of perspiration forming on her brow. I really should head out. Got chores at home. She takes off so fast. She's practically vanished before I even finish speaking. What was that about? Did someone step on her toes? Su-Won giggles, hiding her face, because just before I entered, Xiaoying had been spiraling through wild ideas about what kind of entity is occupying me. A restless ghost, some kind of mountain demon, or maybe a gloomy student who drank himself to death in some tavern. Was once a potential nominee. It's nothing, Su-Won says, grinning. She's probably just terrified of you. Scared of me? Apparently, inside Xiaoying's head, I'm pretty much identical to some possessing ghost. By now, anyway. How are you feeling today? Checking her pulse has become a daily routine for me. It's steady right now. Calm and regular. The previous internal trauma from her wounds has mostly cleared up, That's a good sign. She's genuinely been happier lately. I'm doing well. It doesn't hurt anymore, she says, looking up at me, without a single trace of her old fear remaining. Whatever stranger's soul is allegedly inhabiting this body, she stopped caring, as far as she's concerned. The man who looks after her no matter what. That's her husband, period. I even strolled around a bit today. You walked? 3 broken ribs require strict bed rest. Moving too early risks the bones mending crookedly. Your injuries aren't fully healed yet, so don't push it too soon or what? She really isn't afraid of me anymore. Smiling with dimples I hadn't even noticed until now. Or these, I say, stretching out the words while gesturing to her chest. Might grow back uneven. She freezes, her face turning bright red the moment it clicks. She's still technically pure. So, a joke like that totally short-circuits her. Husband, it's broad daylight. So what if it's daytime? I lean in, enjoying her flustered reaction. Way too much. You're my wife. Nobody else is home, and I didn't even say anything wrong. Nothing wrong. Her face is turning completely red right up to her hairline now. Staring at me like I might just swallow her alive, but whatever. Check out what I got for you. What's that? I slide out the 2 silk blossoms. Her face brightens up right away. Hairpins. Yep. I slide the blue one into her hair myself. Dig it? I love it. She reaches to slide the second one in as well. But I hold her back. Just one is flawless. 2 would be overkill. You're seriously stunning with just this one, for real. She brushes her hair, eyes shining. That pure, open, tender charm of a girl who's only just coming into her own. No doubt about it. My wife is hands down the prettiest girl in this whole village. I keep tossing out compliments like they cost nothing. Which they don't. Next time you're up and about, stand by the wall so I can see how tall you are. I still have no clue where you measure up to on me. Maybe here, a point toward my shoulder, or around here, a bit lower by my neck. Smiling like a total lovesick fool. Then I pull out a coin pouch and drop it straight into her palms. Take a look at this. Starting today, you're in charge of all our family funds. She stops dead in her tracks, her arms still up. She isn't clueless about wealth. She was surrounded by it before her world came crashing down. Gold and silver were basically her childhood playthings. Yet the sheer heft of this bag alone tells her this is no joke. She peeks inside. 2 hefty 10-tail silver bars are sitting there. Just a few days back, we only had 3 tails in total. Husband, where on earth did this come from? To be completely honest, at some point, any lingering thoughts I had of eventually parting ways with her had completely vanished. She's just so kind and understanding. She's sleeping next to me every night. Hey, I'm only human, and she's gorgeous. Seriously stunning. I give her the abridged version, rescuing some guy at the city gates, then pawning the jade piece he gave me for those 20 tails. It had this Chalin pattern on it, and that's the one thing that actually gets a reaction out of her. Yeah, Chalin. Around here, the military officers rock the Chalin crest, while the bureaucrats go with cranes. But the engraving on that piece wasn't some fierce, aggressive pose. It was just huddling down, so I never really thought twice about it. Why, you know something about that? No, just wondering. She quickly shakes her head, then asks rather hesitantly, Husband, are you seriously letting me handle all our cash? 20 tails is way more than even the village chief's family could scrape together on short notice. Plus, she's still technically an outsider. Just a refugee bride. You're my wife. Of course you run what I bring home. I'm grinning like some lovesick schoolboy who's never been near a woman in his life. This is just 20 tails. I'll make tons more. I do the work, you stay home looking pretty, and count cash until your hands get sore. Oh, by the way, do you need to use the latrine? Since I'm here, I can give you a hand. She blinks, completely thrown off by the incredibly random jump from family finances to bathroom help. Honestly, she actually does have to go. But the thought of him hearing, even though they're married, even as husband and wife, is just mortifying. She bites her lip and shakes her head. No, I really don't need to. Seriously, I keep teasing, having way too much fun with this. If you gotta go, don't hold it in. Guess I'll just block my ears and shut my eyes. Man, she's totally losing it. Like she seriously wants the ground to swallow her up, ultimately swatting my shoulder because she's just so embarrassed. All right, hubby, cut it out. My bad. I quickly dive off the mattress before she can smack me again. I'll quit it back in a flash. While her cheeks are still totally flushed, she catches some loud clattering out in the courtyard. And a couple of minutes later, I reappear, toting a wooden seat with a hole carved right through the middle. I flaunt it with a grin. Hey, wifey, just utilize this whenever nature calls. Simply slide a pail right underneath. She is completely speechless at the sight of it. The regional examinations are scheduled for early April, so schedule's tight. Because of that, Outside of daily foraging treks for medicinal plants, I scarcely stepped foot outside. I even passed off the botanic vending trade to Urju to conserve hours, calculating that there were still a few days left prior to my planned appointment with a merchant. Yet on the third afternoon, the apothecary's wagon pulls up right outside my doorstep. Manager Zhou. I'm honestly shocked to find him in my place with air. Zhu tagging along behind him, looking totally flustered, fiddling nervously with his pockets, acting like he completely forgets how to stand normal. The merchant casts a brief glance across my crumbling shack, taking in me perched on a bench by the hearth, keeping warm while studying, and the reality hits him immediately. This guy is legitimately broke. Manager Zhou, what brings you all the way out here? I scan around looking for an extra seat. We don't have one. Don't waste your time. He remarks, I'm here strictly on official terms. Guess I'll head out then. Is this about the medicinal plants? Just kidding. He's witnessing firsthand just how broke we really are. We don't even have a place to sit. Maybe we ought to crash Urju's place instead. Urju is still completely dazed by all this, running deliveries to the pharmacy for me. These past couple of days have felt totally surreal to him. Folks like him usually get ignored by the city crowd. Yet every single time he drops by, they treat him with respect and even offer him warm tea. He spent over a decade hustling in the city, and nobody has ever shown him this kind of kindness. And now, it turns out the manager wants to lock down a sole distribution agreement with me for a completely brand new line of medicine. Before today, Urju's closest encounter with big shots was just dealing with the yearly tax guy. But right now, I'm apparently making deals with the biggest apothecary in town, watching me talk numbers so seriously with the store manager. Urju is pretty convinced he's dynamic dreaming. Urju, take a seat. I tell him, guiding the group over to his place instead, where there is at least warm water and proper chairs, rather than absolute emptiness. Urju parks himself rigidly onto a stool, looking as anxious as a nervous father in a waiting room. The manager cuts straight to the chase. The owner is ecstatic about how well the antitoxin works and wants to buy the supplies solely from you. The real question is, what rate are you eyeing? That quick? I've got total faith in my recipe, but I didn't count on a green light this fast. What kind of retail price are you targeting for the completed tablet? Hall has been doing business in this city for a century, ever since the first emperor. Our mission has always been to serve the community, he says, taking a sip of tea, turning serious now. The Northwest suffered under this addiction for years. Now that there's a real cure, that's a blessing for the whole region, not some cash grab. Don't expect to make a quick buck off this. The pills themselves cost next to nothing to make. The true worth lies in the recipe and ratios, not the raw ingredients. I'm not trying to strike it rich overnight either. Low margins work just fine if the volume is there. What's the cost in coins per pill? 3 pills a day runs half a tael a month per patient. Quite affordable for regular folks. But that doesn't leave much room for your profit. These remedies are prepared in batches, either individual doses or 30-day supplies. My recipe relies heavily on pine needles and ox-tongue weed for 60% of the blend, with snake-tongue grass making up roughly 10% or so. A complete batch costs around 120 coins in raw herbs and provides a 10-day supply for one patient. It retails for 150 coins. That's a pretty modest gain per patient. Just about 20 extra coins every 10 days. 60 a month might not sound like a lot per person, but when you scale that across all the addicts in the entire territory, the actual total is massive. 2 coins per pound for the pine needles and ox-tongue weed. No supply limits either. We'll buy whatever you bring. Snake-tongue grass isn't quite in season yet, but I'll pay 4 coins a pound once it is. Sign today if you're on board. He places the agreement on the table, waiting. Urju is holding his breath right beside me, completely spaced out doing the math, but spotting pine needles and ox-tongue weed as vegetation growing wild across the mountainside, free for the taking at 2 coins a pound. Endless supply, 0 upfront cost to harvest. To a guy like him, this sounds like straight-up free cash. I don't even blink. I signed and inked my thumbprint right away. Manager Joe, when do you want the first batch brought in? Now that the cure is proven to work, I'm not wasting a single second. The agreement is in triplicate. He pockets his copy. One goes to the local court for official filing. And he grins. Production kicked off yesterday on the initial run, and our plant supply is running pretty low. Tomorrow will be perfect if you can swing it. I've got other merchants to meet with, so I gotta run. Here is 10 taels as a down payment. Keep it safe. You got it. I'll have the goods ready by tomorrow. Way after the merchant takes off, Urza is still rubbing his face, looking totally dazed. Deep lines are etched in his weathered face. Xianing, what exactly did that suit just say? Is he making a deal with you? I can't help but chuckle at his look. Yeah, a deal. And strictly with me. Nobody else. And that ox tongue stuff and the other thing. The snake tongue grass. What on earth is snake tongue grass anyway? Not dragon tongue grass. Ox tongue wheat. The stuff sprouting under acacia tree roots. All over the hills. Both are actual healing plants that fetch real coin. And the pine needles, too. Seriously, 2 coins a pound? Urju gives me a skeptical look. Xianing, could that merchant be ripping you off somehow? It makes 0 sense in his world. For anyone to fork over cold, hard cash. For stuff that grows wild and useless all over the place. Locals like him use that exact weed as kindling, complaining about how much ash it leaves behind. See, that's precisely what you're missing. I tell Urju. Think about it. Why does the same log sell for next to nothing? As firewood, but gets transformed into furniture. Worth 10 times as much. Once a carpenter works his magic on it, or look at soybean flour, 8 coins a pound raw. Toss in some leftover veggies and scraps of meat. Steam it up into cornbread, and you can flip each piece for a coin. And a single pound of flour yields at least 20 pieces. Wild herbs follow the exact same logic. To you, it's just a bunch of weeds. But to a physician, it's medicine that saves lives. Urju blinks at me, the wheels finally turning. All right, I get it now. Business. Folks just always find a way to ring. A profit out of absolutely anything. Huh? That snake tongue grass can cure people. So it has actual value. That's the idea. I smile and nod, spot on. That's exactly how it works. Sure, those plants are everywhere up there. But it's still brutal labor for a pretty small payout. 2 coins a pound? Urju is clearly unconvinced. The math checks out. A grueling day on the slopes nets you maybe 20 to 30 pounds max. It beats chopping firewood, definitely. But it's nowhere near what you make doing it yourself. Roughly 100 plus coins a day compared to 60 or 70. Urju isn't dense, and he can run those numbers just fine. That's totally true, I say, tapping the table thoughtfully. But look, Arjun, when did I ever say? I was in a harvest every single herb by myself. Then who will? He catches on quick. Oh, got it. Get your wife to pitch in, and me too. More hands mean more herbs. And more cash. I shake my head. You're halfway right. There's an old saying. Many hands moving together can move a mountain. I don't plan on picking all this alone, and I'm definitely not asking you to drop your own chores. For my sake, either. His face goes blank. Then how's this supposed to work? I'm going to get the whole village out there. Gathering herbs for me, I explain it to him clearly. The two of us together can manage maybe 100 to 200 pounds a day tops. That's about half a tael, give or take. But what if the entire village gets involved? Anyone who brings me herbs gets cash for it. Let's say a coin for every 2 pounds. Even someone barely trying could bring in 20 pounds. 10 people makes it 200 pounds. 30 people? 100 people? All I'm paying out is the basic collection fee. Everything on top of that, when sold to the pharmacy, is pure profit. Do the math on what that actually brings in. Arjun leaps to his feet, pacing in a circle, rubbing his face in sheer excitement. Our village is boxed in by mountains on 3 sides, with over 200 households. Even if we aren't a massive clan, oxtongue weed, pine needles, those mountains have more than anyone could ever pick. Clean, and the shopkeeper himself said it. No caps on quantity, unlimited demand. Implies that all the medicinal plants on this mountain are pretty much mine at this point. And considering how devastating the famine has been, even a beefy laborer hauling sandbags downtown only pulls in around 20 coins a day. And that's only after begging and greasing the foreman's palm, just to land the gig. Which is precisely why this town is crawling with so many restless troublemakers to begin with. Xianing, I'm going to break the news to everyone right now. I'll rally the entire village up that mountain for you. Today, I can't help but smirk. Urzu, are you seriously just going to go tell them like that? You do remember what my actual reputation is around here, right? What about it? To guys like us, passing up free cash is just plain stupid. Take my word for it. This place is packed with folks who have nothing better to do. I'll have the whole crew up that peak by this afternoon, and I'll personally haul your wagon into the city tomorrow morning. But what if nobody buys it? Nobody buys it? That outcome literally hasn't even crossed his mind. Human nature is tricky, though, and I'm well aware of what the old me's status amounts to in this town. I can't just count on Urzu's hype alone to sway an entire neighborhood. Urzu, let's place a wager. I gesture toward the rooster parading around the courtyard. That guy right there. If the villagers actually turn up to harvest herbs, by later today, I'll buy you a whole chicken. If they don't, I'm throwing that one in the pot tonight. Deal. He stomps out the front gate, brimming with confidence. I hang back in his yard for a bit, and spot two little heads peeking over the fence. Creeping up behind them, I see it's Dolly's boy, Zhuang, alongside Urju's kid. Shurat, Kro Chingsi the Bisida. Those two are totally drooling over the next door neighbor's white goose, stuck halfway through laying an egg. Typical kid stuff, right there. I used to watch geese lay eggs when I was little too. If you scare a laying goose, it might legit choke, trying to hold that egg back. I quietly observe them for a moment, realize the goose is having a rough time, and finally call out, "What are you two plotting?" Go, unklening. The startled bird takes off instantly. Egg's gone, damn it. His face completely drops. He's still super salty. About that time, I swiped his roasted sparrow. Way back when. Staring me down, but too chicken to say a word. The village walls are just packed mud and straw, so I've got no problem leaning right against them, smirking while I tease the two kids. You guys craving goose eggs, Juan? Juan gulps hard, completely busted. Totally terrified that I'm messing with him again. He stays dead silent, sniffling nervously. That goose belongs to Grandpa Good next door. And those eggs do too. You want to get caught and thrashed for stealing? Zhuang knows stealing earns you a beating, but he's clearly dying for a taste anyway. Out of all the kids in the village, he actually has the best food. His granddad is the village chief. His dad's a bricklayer with a steady gig. They've never missed a meal. But not starving and eating meat all the time are two completely different stories. His own mom whacked him with a broom just this morning for whining about wanting meat. He reaches into his pocket and fishes out a few coins, the exact ones I handed over to settle my debt earlier. Uncle Ning, those goose eggs are seriously delicious. I'll pay Grandpa back, so just go for it. It's not stealing, okay? Just don't snitch to my mom. Deal? My lips are sealed. I carefully lift Zhuang down from the wall, his tiny frame feeling incredibly soft and warm against me. And for a brief moment, I catch myself, wondering if having children with SU1 down the road would feel anything like this. I'm honestly all in with her at this point, even if we haven't actually taken things to the bedroom yet. But hey, if we ever do, who can say? She could end up giving me half a dozen kids over time. In a perfect world, a whole lineup of older brothers, with a single baby sister arriving at the very end. Hey, Uncle Ning's got a quick question for you. Do you two want some meat? Me? To be fair, absolutely nobody in this entire village, kid or adult, would ever turn down an offer like that. Heck yeah. He eyes me with total suspicion. Ning. I totally want meat, but you can't go kicking me again. The last time I booted him, he immediately complained to his old man. But instead of backing his own kid up, Urju gave him 2 extra kicks right back, stubbornly declaring that the old me was basically part of the family. So, swipe a sparrow or two was really no big deal, especially since I was obviously starving. Funny thing is, his mother whipped up a massive pot of meat that very night, all thanks to that chunk of pork I'd given them. The little guy is still super cautious and totally holding a grudge. I won't kick you, I swear on it. Chucking so hard that my shoulders are visibly shaking. I affectionately mess up his hair. Listen up, Uncle Ning needs a bit of backup with something right now. Pull this off properly, and you're getting meat. And not just food, actual pocket change to spend too. Are you guys in? In a harsh environment like this, a massive family is your key to survival. Having 5 or 6 boys grow up translates to some serious manpower. In just 10 years, plus whatever backup uncles and cousins chip in. Boys even inherit property shares in the major clans, whereas marrying off daughters doesn't cost the household a dime. That pretty much shows why sons are way more prized around here. Our own town follows that exact same mindset. Every married couple is clearly putting in overtime. After dark, seeing how 4 or 5 youngsters a house is standard procedure. I tell the 2 boys to gather up all the neighborhood kids by the massive willow tree, their usual spot for grilling sparrows. I toss them a few coins, then head back to slice the pork. 5 pounds at first, but then I change my mind and just throw in the entire remaining 10+ pounds. By the time I lug the iron cauldron down the path, the kids have already grouped up right in the middle of a fight. I nab this sparrow over at my uncle's. I'm eating first. You might have caught it, but I built the fire, so I get the prime cut. You get the scrap. Why should I take orders from you? Your mom's a widow. My mom told me. I shouldn't even hang out with you. Say another word about my mom, and I'll wreck you. Bring it. Who's flinching? The loser gets 0 sparrow, you widow's kid. Zhang's son Zhong de Biao and this other boy, Xia Xiaoshu, both around 11 or 12 years old, and evenly matched, are already scrapping on the ground, while the rest egg them on. Loud enough to echo all through the village. Then the aroma hits. What's that smell? Is that meat stewing? Growing boys can eat their father's outhouse and home under normal circumstances, but these kids barely get a square meal most days. let alone any meat outside of major holidays. Swiping sparrow eggs from the rooftops is pretty much their only source of protein. And even then, they're constantly getting shooed away. The brawl grinds to a sudden halt. Every kid's nose twitches like a rat's, catching the scent of bootleg oil. Jean Debuta and Sia Shashu drop their scrap, mid-swing, practically drooling, as an aroma hits them way harder than the village chief's own father's memorial banquet. Allegedly the finest feast anyone around here has seen in ages. Where's that coming from? DeBeo barks. At his gesture, a dozen kids scramble, bolting toward the willow tree and kicking up a dust storm, terrified the meat might vanish before they make it. By the time they get there, their eyes are wide with greed, their throats gulping down heavy. Man, it smells incredible, heaven help them. Just a single bowl of this meat stew, and they'd sleep like babies for a whole week. I'm busy stirring 10 pounds of pork in the pot. No rock sugar for glaze, but there's plenty of oil and soy sauce, braising everything down until that rich, savory fragrance drifts for miles on the breeze. Cooking outdoors means there's no shortage of kindling. I've gathered a solid stack of deadwood, keeping the stew rolling at a steady boil. Wan, with my coin still tucked in his pocket, hangs around the pot, swallowing hard. Uncle Ning, I brought all the guys over just like you asked. You promised me some meat, and him too, crap. His voice is a bit softer, lacking the authority of the village chief's grandson, but he's been loyally feeding the fire this entire time. Of course, both of you will get a share. I notice the rest of the pack lurking around, like a pack of starving wolves, and I project my voice. Zhuang. What did your uncle tell you before? What do you have to do to earn some meat? Zhuang squares his shoulders, boldly declaring to the entire crowd, help Uncle Ning with his chores. Head up the mountain to pick weeds, and he'll hook you up with meat and pocket money. I scoop the biggest portion right into his bowl. Awesome job, Zhuang. Then I look at Erju too. And if you help Uncle forage for herbs, you'll score some meat and cash too, bud. His eyes are practically glued to the pot. Honestly, he'd agree to absolutely anything right now. Yes, I'll totally help pick herbs. Whatever you need from here on out. Count me in. That's what I'm talking about. Here's your bowl, kiddo. Most of the younger tots have zero clue what foraging for herbs even entails. But Xiao Shu and Zhang Debeo catch on immediately. Lend a hand with this random gig, and get paid in meat and cold cash. The 12-year-old, bold enough to step right up, figures it's worth a shot. Even if it's a total scam, worst case scenario, he'll just keep taking dumps by my door to spite me. Klening. I keep on stirring, deliberately taking my time to reply. He nearly loses his nerve for my silence, but spots Xiao Shu gesturing for him to keep pushing. Uncle Ning, is it for real? Helping out gets us meat. For real, absolutely. Grown-ups don't play mind games with kids. Adults who lie to children deserve to step in their own piss. Zhuang. Show everyone exactly what kind of herbs I'm looking for. Zhuang, taking his new role very seriously, pulls out a couple handfuls of the weeds I'd handed him earlier as reference. This one here is ox-tongue weed. This bunch is pine needle tips, and this one is tongue. Snake tongue grass. I gently interject. Correct. It's snake tongue grass. Uncle Ning claims this stuff is all over, and if you gather some for him, he'll hook you up. He makes absolutely sure to fork over the cash. 2 pounds of ox tongue or pine needles will net you a coin. Snake tongue pays better. 2 coins for 2 pounds. For real? Xiao Shu is still totally hesitant and spooked, thinking it's some kind of trap, yet the aroma of meat right under his nose is undeniably genuine. No doubt it's real. Zhuang flashes his open hand, showing off 10 shiny coins. See? Uncle Ning handed me these. He's awesome. He even squared up the money he owed me, plus a little extra. What a generous nephew. This kid, I didn't need to blab that last part. Myself. Zhuang holds up the sample plants, which nearly all the children recognize by now, aside from those pine needle tips that seem to confuse them. Debeo asks, Uncle, what's the deal with these pine needles? Just pluck the newest. Most tender shoots right off the pine branches. Get a decent bundle to weigh in and bring him over, and I'll pay you hard cash on the spot. No mind games, no excuses. I dish up a massive, overflowing bowl of meat and shove it straight into Debeo's hands. The bowl is scalding hot against his fingers, but he doesn't mind a bit. And he isn't about to let go for anything. This is enough meat to season his mom's cabbage soup for a whole year. Uncle, is this seriously for me? He still can't believe it. Yep, it's all yours. I scoop another portion for Xiao Shu, then stand tall to face the whole drooling pack. To anyone who signed up to pick herbs for me today, every single one of you gets a share of meat, but there's only so much food to go around. Snooze you lose, and if you're late, You get absolutely nothing. The kids totally stuff their faces with pork belly until their lips are glistening with grease. Around these parts, they say only wealthy folks ever get grease stains on their clothes. Even poor families fake it during holidays, rubbing lard right onto their sleeves, just to make it look like they're living large. Xiao Shu starts to wipe his messy face on his arm. Dabao grabs him, snapping, "Don't do that." "Why the hell not?" Xiao Swats, still ticked off about the fight they didn't finish. "Are you stupid or what?" "Yeah, we ate, but who paid for that meat?" Xianing did. "If your folks find out you took food from the village outcast, they're gonna beat you black and blue." That reality check snaps Xiao Su out of it real quick. He turns to warn the rest of the gang too. "So, are we still holding up our end of the deal?" He did say he'd give us actual hard cash. These kids never get to keep their New Year's money before their parents snatch it right away. And now an adult is promising immediate dough simply for pulling up weeds? Hell yeah, we're doing it. Dabao's thinking of his mom, stressed to death about buying seeds for spring crops. She's been begging that local thug, G the Lame, over and over for help, coming home covered in fresh bruises. The last time, he knows, half those marks came from G's wife and half from G himself, even though his mom never utters a word about it, and just weeps silently when night falls. With clenched fists and burning eyes, he says, "We pull up whatever he wants." But he promised cash. What if he stiffs us? One of the younger kids nervously chimes in. Dabao's voice is steady as iron. And then we take a collective dump right by his doorstep. Every last one of us, to teach him not to rip off kids. Meanwhile, I'm heading back home carrying the pot, with Zhuang riding up on my shoulders, his hand tightly holding onto mine. Suddenly, Urju gets a whole pail of nasty water, thrown straight over his head. Right around that time, who do you folks think you're messing with? You think the CF households don't have men left to stand up for them. CF Bushing's wife stands right at her entrance, clutching a diaper rag, hands on her hips, yelling, "We are all on the exact same family registry. Yet you come over here trying to hustle your own relatives. Just because that lowlife managed to catch one lucky deer doesn't mean he gets to act like some big city trader. Selling weeds now, are we? Give me a break. What a total joke. And you sucker. Letting that moron sweet-talk you into doing his dirty work. Pitching this absolute nonsense at my doorstep." Urju, completely drenched in filthy dishwater, is ready to roll up his sleeves and yell right back, when Saidali stops him. As it happens, the very first place Urju went to gather villagers was actually the village chief's own home. The chief himself, Sayab Balku, merely tapped out his pipe and remained quiet, leaving the final call completely up to Dolly. Ever since that deer transaction, Dolly realized I had truly turned things around. Not just keeping it bottled inside, but steady and genuinely sensible. Sure enough to never let anyone get the best of me. Reckoning that my name alone might require the backing of some clan loyalty, he intended to hit the streets with Urzu himself, giving top priority to the Sia family line first. Given that blood runs thick around here, the second house they visited quite literally threw cold water on the whole setup. "Auntie, that's a bit uncalled for." Dolly interjects. "Look, we're family. You don't have to pitch in if you don't want to. But there's no reason to be so harsh." "Harsh? You think this is harsh?" She keeps aggressive, whipping the rag through the air, barely showing Dolly a shred of respect. "Dolly, don't play dumb. I'll say it straight to your face. You're a respectable bricklayer. So why waste your time playing errand boy for that absolute deadbeat? Aren't you worried his trashy reputation will rub off on you? Cut the chatter, both of you. My grandson just soiled himself, and he's about to start bawling for milk." She slams the door shut, hurling one final warning over her shoulder, that if they actually do strike it rich, they better not come crawling back to her doorstep. By the time I lay eyes on Urju again, his face is longer than a horse's. I'm hunkered down in the kitchen, doodling something on the dirt floor, with a twig for the two boys, when I glance up and spot Urju framing the doorway, like some kind of pissed-off guardian deity, drenched from head to toe, hair plastered to his forehead. I scrunch at my nose. "Urju, what's that stench?" And Dolly, "You're here as well." Dolly, who'd been seething the whole trek over, can't help but smirk at Urju's sheer misery. "Hey, don't look at me. Ask your brother here." "Urju, what on earth happened to you? He looks exactly like a guy who got busted hitting on the wrong lady and paid the price." "Don't even start." Urju's expression is black as thunder, completely livid. Are those people actually brain dead? Rejecting free cash like this. I already well understood how awful my past self-standing truly was around this town. Clearing debts once won't fix years of wreckage in a single day. That shut down hard, huh? I gave one a light pat. and sent him and Shirdu off to go play. Man, Urju is practically trembling with fury right now. Remember when that snake bit Xia Baoqing years ago? My dad was the one who carried him down the trail and literally sucked the venom out himself. Yet out of everyone in this neighborhood who treats you like dirt, his folks are the absolute worst. And don't think for a second I missed it. While his wife was out there howling trash, right at my front door, Baoqing just sat inside having a drink, not even bothering to step outside, as if the rest of us can't see right through him. Even Dolly looks completely repulsed by the whole thing. After hearing the news, family ties ought to count for something, especially since my real father actually saved that guy's life. Holding back his temper, Dolly says, Xianing, don't let those people get to you. I'll deal with my second uncle's household later. If this whole herb trade is for real, I'll ensure nobody steps out of line again. No need to involve the village chief just yet. I reply, my old track record earned this suspicion fair and square. It makes total sense they don't trust me. So what's the plan? The merchant wants the order tomorrow, and we don't have any inventory ready at all. Urju is getting seriously stressed out now, tugging Dolly's arm to head back outside. Let's trek up the mountain right this second, while we still have some daylight left. We can't break our promise. As Dolly gets hauled along, he gives me a shocked look, considering how doubtful he'd been before. Catching wind that I locked in a deal with the town's top pharmacy. Now, seeing Urju freak out this badly over a broken promise. It's clear as day to Xianing. Urju has a point, Dolly chimes in. We should head up while there's still daylight. If the three of us can't cut it, I'll bring my dad and your sister-in-law along too. Brother Dolly. Urju, hold on a second. I catch Urju's arm with a grin. Remember that wager we made earlier? Yeah, I remember. His eyes widen. Wait, Xianing, did you seriously already line up people to harvest herbs? They're secured. Just give a little time. I guide them both out into the courtyard and gesture toward the rooster, strutting proudly along the wall. It's nearly dinner time anyway, and I skipped lunch. Why don't you go ahead and settle that bet right now? The herbs will be arriving at my doorstep by tomorrow morning. At the absolute latest, I guarantee it. Truth be told, I've actually been eyeing that rooster for quite a while. The bird that's been waking the village at daybreak. His whole life, king of his own little harem of hens, finally meets his maker. I wring his neck, drain the blood into a bowl, scald and pluck him, then chop him up. Give him a quick blanch, then sear the meat with ginger and soy sauce, before tossing in the frozen mushrooms. Urju brought over. Before long, the entire yard is filled with the aroma of chicken stew. Dolly had already heard from Urju that I genuinely inked a legitimate contract with the biggest pharmacy in the city. He'd figured I'd been hustled at first, just like Urju, but the moment he found out they paid a 10-tail deposit without even getting a single herb yet, any skepticism vanished. When did I get this legit? He can barely even recognize me now. His own bro is finally getting his act together, and that's a major win in Dolly's book. So, not wanting to be outdone by Urju's rooster feast, he rushes home and grabs 2 pounds of cured bacon, telling his bewildered wife straight up, going to grab drinks with my brother, CNN. I had already prepared myself mentally for Urju's wife's terrifying presence, but seeing her up front still hits on another level. Heavy facial hair, a slight dark shadow above her lip that looks like a mustache from afar. Her features aren't hideous, just totally plain, except for her stature. By my guess, I stand at around 6 feet tall. Urju is a couple of inches taller, and Dolly is a bit shorter. This woman meets my gaze eye to eye and blocks the door, completely built like a brick wall. As my sister-in-law, she holds a completed quilt, greeting me politely once she spots me, looking visibly thrown off for a moment. See, the old me used to cower before her, like a mouse hiding from a cat. She clearly senses the transformation as well. At least I'm behaving like a normal person now. The quilts are done, Yemem. Bringing them to your wife. Thanks a ton, I reply, acting as respectful as possible, in front of someone with this kind of build. My wife has your cash ready inside. I won't intrude, The rate was 15 coins per quilt. She would have collected it even if I hadn't offered, stepping 1 foot past the threshold. She looks back, her brows furrowed. Man, this guy somehow still has the balls to take a concubine right under his wife's nose. That's some serious nerve. Catching the expression on her face, I brace myself. Yeah. My sister-in-law glares straight at me, her voice completely flat and final. The next time you and your brother place a bet, keep my animals out of it. That rooster was the finest one we owned, the sire to a dozen hens. Got it. Got it. Won't happen again. The exact moment Tion shows up inside, Xiaoing leaps off the bed to clear space, visibly trembling under a single glare. Sister-in-law is here, Su Wan says warmly, handing over the promised payment. from a basket filled with loose change. Thank you for your hard work. Without you, my husband, and I would still be freezing under those tattered blankets. How's the wound? My husband is taking great care of me. It barely hurts at all now, Suwon answers. I just can't do any heavy lifting yet. Then don't. Let Xian handle it. Tion replies in a gruff voice. A wife feeds and clothes her husband, and a husband looks after his wife when she's down. That's just how it goes. I told you before to dump him, but you didn't listen. Glad it worked out anyway, and glad he finally cleaned up his act. The people close to me have definitely clocked the change. Out of everyone around here, Tion is actually the only one who never looked down on Suwon. For being a refugee, she stepped in plenty of times, back when the original me was at his absolute worst, even offering Suwon escape money once to help her flee. Suwon's official status is the working class, which is technically one tier above the brothel class, yet legally ranked way below regular folks. The local law bans trafficking actual free citizens, but working class peeps are legal property to be traded. Guys in that position can scrape by anywhere, provided they're fit enough to labor. But women, especially someone as physically fragile as Suwon, lose every bit of legal protection. The second marriage stops shielding them. Any random person on the street could snatch her and sell her off. That's the real reason she put up with years of abuse. Instead of running away, there was simply nowhere safe to go. Yeah, it finally clicked. Suwon mumbles, her eyes drifting toward the window, where I'm chopping firewood outside. Xiaoying follows her gaze. Even surrounded by other grown men doing the exact same chore, my posture really stands out, totally straight-backed, with the evening light catching my profile, and sweat trickling down my jawline, in a way that somehow looks hot instead of gross. No wonder Suwon is still completely head over heels, even while believing I might be possessed by a ghost. The room goes quiet for a moment before Xiaoying asks, genuinely anxious, Suwon, has he been sucking away your life force lately? Outside, a couple of tables are set up, men at one, women at the other. In addition to the chicken stew, I've whipped up stir-fried cabbage with bacon, a spicy shredded potato dish, and rounded it off with an egg and chive soup, cooked using the rooster's unhatched eggs. Shuetu and Zhuang, already stuffed from lunch, barely pick at their food. Before I pack them off to practice, they're writing by the fireplace. Zhuang is working on basic math, while Shuetu is starting with his own last name. That's the difference a scholar makes, compared to us dirt farmers. Dolly remarks while taking a swig of sweet potato wine, as he watches his boy count on his fingers. Once you actually put your mind to studying, you end up picking things up faster than all of us put together. Too true. Look at Urju, flushed red after just a couple of cups. I used to think Xianing hit the books, just to slack off from real labor. Turns out, he really did absorb something from those pages. The guy can straight up practice medicine now. That's some proper physician skill. He is a physician. Seriously, how many real doctors do a bunch of rural villages like ours even have? Around these parts, even some half-baked, barefoot quack gets treated like royalty by everyone, respected solely because of that one useful trade. They never go hungry. Say, Xianing, I heard from the folks over at the apothecary that your medical expertise leaves even their senior doctors in the dust. Urju inquires, sounding genuinely intrigued. So, where'd you pick all this up? Maybe you could pass it on to my nephew sometime? Right now, he's an apprentice at a tofu shop in town. Worked like a dog and looking skinnier every single time I see him. He's only 12. And it absolutely kills me to watch him toil away like that. One fabrication always demands 100 more to back it up. I've officially painted myself into a corner, just as I'm desperately trying to find a way to deflect the question. A cluster of tiny figures abruptly materializes at the edge of the courtyard. Unklening. Are you inside? Urju rushes to the entrance first, feeling suspicious, and flings it open. Both he and Dolly instantly freeze. Crowded right outside is a whole mob of local kids. About 10 of them covered in dirt from head to toe. A few of them still have bits of twigs tangled in their hair from the hills. Uncle Ning, we gathered the medicinal plants you asked for. Time to pay up. Don't you dare break your promise. Grown-ups who lie to children deserve to step in their own. Piss, DeBeo adds, looking genuinely tense behind the bravado. He's terrified of being scammed, but desperate for the coins. If you don't pay, we're all taking turns crapping in front of your door, starting tomorrow. So that's who's actually been doing that. On my front step, not Urju's son. After all, you guys must be freezing. I wave them all into the kitchen to warm up by the fire. Even with spring technically here, the mountain is still mostly snow, and most of these kids are wearing clothes. A size too small with thin padding at best. Hours wandering the mountain in this weather. isn't a small thing for malnourished kids. I have urge you pour hot water for everyone, sharing bowls if needed. With medicine this scarce, a chronic chill could turn into something serious fast. Need to boil some isatis root tomorrow for them, I think. DeBeo drops his sack with a thud and wipes his mouth. Uncle, DeBeo says defiantly, I spent the whole afternoon on the mountain. Is this the stuff you wanted? He opens the sack. Urju and Dolly both freeze. Inside, stacked together with bits of snow still clinging to it, is a proper haul, fresh pine needle tips, oxtongue weed, and a smaller amount of snake tongue grass. Exactly what I asked for. Dolly stares at the filthy crowd of kids, stunned. Xianing, these are your hired help. Told you not to worry, I say, grinning at him, while he's still visibly constipated with disbelief. Watch, I'm not eating that rooster for nothing. I crouch down and sort through the herbs. A bit of snow and stray grass are mixed in, but it's exactly the right 3 plants. I sort everything into neat, clean piles. Before opening the money pouch on the kitchen counter, the distinct clinking sounds, loud enough to suggest over 100 pieces. Right then, the kids go completely silent, holding their breath with eyes glued to the pouch, looking utterly terrified that the town's biggest scoundrel might back out. At the very last moment, Urju, you got a scale at your place. His wife regularly sells eggs and sews for the village, so they always have one handy. Yeah, hold on. He returns almost as quickly as he left. Tion arrives as well, spots the crowd of children, and glares at me. Weigh them fairly, don't rip off. The youngsters wouldn't dream of it. Sister-in-law, I have Urju hold the scale steady, since I don't completely trust my own reading, and handle the calculations myself. Ox tongue, 12 pounds and 7 tails. Pine needles, 4.5 pounds. Snake tongue, 2 pounds. Urju shouts out. I generously round up the figures in my head. 12/7 becomes 13 pounds. 4.5 gets bumped to 5, and I quickly count the change. I pat Bayo firmly on the shoulder. Not bad at all, young man. He's barely breathing, his eyes bloodshot, asking in a cracking voice, H, how much, uncle? 13 coins. I gently open his tightly clenched fist and press the money straight into his palm. Keep it safe. If you lose it, that's on you. Not me. He has never held this much cash before. The actual physical mass of real currency in his grip is what finally makes him realize this is happening. He just keeps rubbing the coins together in his hand, as if they could vanish into thin air. Uncle, yeah. I'm already moving on to the next kid. Xiaoshu is glaring at DeBeo with pure competitive intensity. He's a year older, and the two have been total rivals for as long as I can recall. From this body's past memories, DeBeo just pulled in 13 coins. His own older brother barely makes a tael or so a month, hauling slop buckets for some wealthy family. And he visits home so rarely that his mother gives up the warmest spot on the bed for him every single time, even taking in his baby to look after, just so it wouldn't mess with his work. If Xiaoshu can out-earn DeBeo today, maybe he can finally best his brother at something. Uncle, this is the most cash DeBeo has ever held. Earned totally clean, without bowing down to anyone. Without being forced to call some drunk lowlife dad. Money that actually belongs to him. Uncle Ning, I swear I'm never pooping in front of your place again. Or peeing either. I'll haul and weigh more herbs tomorrow. He bolts off before even finishing his sentence. And, right as he spins around, I catch a lone tear flying off his face midair, splatting somewhere down in the dirt. Uncle, Ning, how much is mine? Xiaoshu asks, desperate. Is it more than DeBeo's ox tongue? 14 pounds of it. Even pine needles. 6 pounds. Snake tongue. Just a couple of stalks, I tell him. Hold on to those few stems and bring them back once you've got some actual weight. So how much, uncle? 10 coins. The instant the cash hits his palm, he leaps a whole foot into the air, shouting with pure joy, I've got money. I've got money. It's less than DeBeo, but 10 whole coins nonetheless. I'm hitting the market tomorrow for some meat buns. Grabbing 5 total, 1 for my mom, dad, brother, and even my little nephew. Uncle, you're seriously the best. Mind if I bring another batch of herbs tomorrow? Yeah, totally, I reply, musing his hair before addressing the rest of the crowd. DeBeo took off in a rush. Someone tell him tomorrow. He needs to organize the herbs properly, like this. I hold up the neatly divided piles. Keep every variety separate. No stray weeds. And no snow. Got it. Got it, Uncle Ning. My turn now. My turn. Hey, I was here first. Weigh mine first. How about way more than you, back of the line? The kids break out into total chaos, making enough noise to wake the dead. I get them all lined up. Urge manages the scale, while I calculate the math and hand over the cash. Dolly takes care of sorting and storing the herbs. By the time the last kid heads home, Night has completely fallen. Dolly helps Urju weigh the whole. Sort haul one last time. The final numbers are way higher than we expected. Just about 50 pounds of ox tongue, 35 pounds of pine needles, and roughly 8 pounds of snake tongue. The rarest of the bunch. Crunching the numbers quickly, both ox tongue and pine needles fetch 2 coins per pound at the apothecary, and the snake tongue at 4 gross brings the total to 148 coins. Subtracting the 36 coins I just paid out to the kids, that leaves a solid 112 coins in pure profit. Man, finally some peace and quiet. I'm what'ta. Those kids really pulled through. Urju remarks, looking pretty impressed. I'll haul it to town for you first thing tomorrow. Dolly chimes in to help too. Since you've got logs to split tomorrow, I'll head out there instead, so you won't lose out on pay. Forget about the money, Urju replies, taking his seat at the table again. For another round of sweet potato hooch. My bro finally turned his life around, and that's worth way more than cash. Plus, I've got to hit up the West Market tomorrow anyway, to get some seed. If Raju hadn't brought up the seed grain, it would have completely slipped my mind that I even had 3 acres of fields. The original version of me, honestly, used to clash with his dad nonstop about selling off that property to pay for school. The only reason he never did? Those 3 acres were the sole decent plot remaining after the family split everything up over a decade ago. And digging a bit deeper into these memories, it looks like the original guy's grandparents are actually still kicking. His dad's younger brother, for what I can tell, talked the grandparents into giving my dad just 3 acres of fertile soil along with 2 acres of rocky, near useless dirt right by a ditch, plus this total wreck of a house. He used the convenient excuse that he'd be the one taking care of the elderly folks. So the grandparents are still around, yet not a single one of them bothered to show up. When both of his parents passed away right after each other, they live in the exact same village, but nobody offered a dime. The original me had to literally beg the blacksmith for coffin money, down on his knees, thinking back to running into Yazu at the bookstore, and that arrogant, look-down-his-nose expression of his. It turns out the original me's total fixation on studying probably began as a direct response to watching his parents constantly bossed around by the grandparents, while Yaozu's side of the family hit it big, already praised as a scholar student by contrast. My original self's gut feelings weren't wrong, just totally doomed. You can't outwork a family that's already written you off as an inferior bunch, and after taking enough heavy hits, anyone is bound to break eventually, particularly someone who wasn't all that bright from the start. As for the grandparents themselves, it's almost laughable when you think about it. If your own son's brother can just stand there and watch his folks starve and mourn without ever lifting a finger, that pretty much tells you everything about where their loyalties truly lie. As far as I care, that part of the family doesn't even exist unless they actually show up and try to pull something. And if they do, well, that's their problem to handle. What to actually grow on those 3 acres, though, I haven't quite mapped that part out yet. I really urge you, whenever you get a minute, to take me out to check out that land properly. The plot has got great dirt. He tells me that even during the dry spell, it still yielded 70 pounds per acre, which is exactly why the blacksmith was so dead set on snatching it from you. We'll see, I reply. I woke up early again this morning and spent most of dawn hitting the books by the stove, poring over the test papers. This specific batch was composed by a scholar named Wu Junyuan, who aced both his local and regional civil exams. A few years back, the front page even features his life story. No ghostwriting market exists around here yet, especially not for these types of test essays, since those evaluate real talent head-on. Plus, this dude has got the guts to peddle his own annotated prep books before he's even passed the imperial exam himself. As the wagon rattles along, I don't mind the chill sitting in the back, mumbling through the Book of Rights, reciting quotes from the highlighted parts of actual past exams. Urju listens to the wheels squeak, harmonizing with my chanting, and feels pretty darn happy about it all, already resolving to hustle harder, so that down the line, he can afford to send his own kid, Shurdo, to school too. Turns out today is also when the southern districts outside town are running their official seed grain clearance, so the city gates are jammed with carts and crowds. We trudge through the queue before finally entering Sheening. Hold up for me. Let's grab some seed together, and we might as well go suss out the tax collectors too. Sounds like a plan. Let's ditch the wagon in the apothecary's back lot first, to dodge the massive crowd out front. I leap down and shout over to the helper, sweeping nearby. Hey, Erling, give my brother a hand hauling the cart round back. The apothecary is packed tighter than a temple festival. Word has clearly traveled like wildfire through the streets about some absolute prodigy of a physician who didn't just save terminal addicts, but whipped up a functional detox remedy from scratch. Most of the folks waiting this morning showed up purely because of that buzz. It actually does the trick, a lady in line remarks, stretching her neck to peer inside. My neighbor, Ani Zhang, secretly did needlework for years to pay for that junk, keeping it from her boy. Her ulcers were gruesome. The last time I saw her, blood was dripping right down her arm. Guess what I saw yesterday? What? Rumors always find a willing ear, especially around here, where most folks are, suffering from the exact same toxicity. The swelling is gone. The lady points frantically at her own limb and throat. It used to be as big as a quail's egg. Now it has pretty much shriveled up. Even those tiny, grain of rice-sized bumps around it are totally gone. What about her arm? The inquirer looks emaciated, stumbling on his feet, clearly starving for some kind of proof that this treatment actually works, as though I'm some legendary savior reborn. But the gossiping lady, anxious about ruining her credibility, quickly shifts gears to defend her claim. I heard that kid doctor personally drained. The absolute worst case, someone on their deathbed, right in front of a whole crowd. Word is, even the rich folks in town are queuing up for a cure now. Hold on, isn't that him? The guy who performed the procedure the other day? As someone yells it out, dozens of eyes lock onto me. All at once, I'm right in the middle of paying the vendor, not even a step toward the medical clinic, when the roar hits me like a tidal wave. Miracle worker, miracle worker. Are you the person who flushes out the venom? Please help me. I've been waiting 3 whole days just to spot you here. Take a look at my wounds. Me too. Over here. Ever since I heard about that dying guy you saved, I knew you could heal anything. Nearly 20 people crowd around me instantly, their expressions packed with desperate longing, as though I'm some legendary savior reborn. If Arjun weren't still back in the courtyard, sipping warm water would drive him completely insane. Witnessing this, I finally get how big-time celebrities feel when they get swarmed at the airport. Only, instead of obsessed fanatics, shouting about wanting to have my babies, it's a crowd of genuinely ill, hopeless people. Miracle doctor, please check us out. I've been on this drug for 3 years, and now my own mother is sick too. My wife and kids won't even look at me because of these lesions. She took the children back to her folks' place, even though she's the one who hooked me on the stuff in the first place. I only took it to hustle harder and provide for my family. How could I know how to do this? Me too. Another guy shoves his way forward, dropping to his knees. Merciful. Miracle doctor, please cure us. None of us took this toxic junk out of greed. We just wanted to make more cash for our kin and bought into the wrong people's lies. Please save us, sir. Please stand up. I hurry to pull him back to his feet, then look lost at the storekeeper, who merely shrugs. Totally loving this. Told you. Declining the staff gig wasn't going to spare you from this exact situation. Eyeing the gathering. Maybe 20 folks in total. I can tell right off that 3 or 4 are critical cases, just by how emaciated they look. I still have some hitting the books to do, and the kids are likely waiting at my door already. With today's herb harvest, I face the shopkeeper. Where is Dr. Wu? Seeing patients back in the clinic hall right now, he says, cocking an eyebrow at me. So, change your mind about joining the staff yet? Regardless, I'm still purchasing all 3 of your herbs. No strings attached. Cut it out, shopkeeper Joe. I'm dead serious now, I say, facing the entire gathering. I get that everyone here is desperate for a cure, hoping this opportunity doesn't pass you by. But just hear me out first. The patients crowd in desperate, a few clearly weeping for the first time in years. There is actual hope now that this ailment can be cured. Miracle doctor. We swear we won't cause any trouble. Yes, just tell us whatever you need. If you can heal us, our lives belong to you. Looking over the anxious faces gathered before me, friends, uncles, aunts, I know you're all eager to get treated right away. However, illnesses develop gradually over time, and they don't just vanish overnight either. This toxin behaves the exact same way. You've gathered today because word spread about a genuine remedy for these lesions. There are 2 distinct treatment routes: surgically removing the masses or taking oral medication. Surgery is strictly reserved for critical cases, not something to be rushed into. So, anyone who has used this drug for 3 years or more, queue up here. Those with fewer than 10 total sores, none bigger than a single red bean, form a line here. The rest of you, head over there. In mere moments, I've organized the whole crowd by severity. I glance over at the shopkeeper. Have you opened up the sign-ups for the surgical patients yet? Watching me soothe the panic mob and categorize them with such effortless efficiency, the shopkeeper honestly can't tell if he's looking at a A youthful student or an experienced, veteran physician running the operation. Registration has already begun. He verifies dispatching the trainee for the records. Hall has never cared about class or cash. If you can pay, you get medical care. Plain and simple. Awesome. All right, everyone line up. Right here, sign in. The guy standing at the front of the surgery line just completely bursts into tears, praising me like I'm some sort of god. You're a miracle doctor, a living saint. If you heal me, I swear I'll buy a plot of land and build you a proper shrine. So, my grandkids will always remember who saved their forefather. Man, that's wild. Even back in my past life, saving folks, nobody ever offered to erect a temple for me. I just laugh it off. Hold your horses, sir. I'm just a guy dropping off the medicine. The actual operations are Dr. Wu's department. He's the real pro here. If you're going to build a shrine, make it for him. Look, I'm not the total skeptic I used to be, especially after everything I've been through. But I'm also not trying to get freaked out by talk of deities. Or destiny. Whatever ultimate force brought me here. I guess the cosmos has its own agenda. And it's not for me to question. Besides, if you look at history, folks who end up worshipped as living gods, while they're still breathing, rarely get a happy ending. Just look at every crooked palace official in the textbooks, who got a bit too comfortable, soaking up that kind of flattery. Surgical cases, please check in here. I turn my attention to the remaining two crowds. For anyone with milder symptoms, the oral medication on its own will completely neutralize and cure the toxin, provided it hasn't escalated to needing an operation. As for the detox pills, the ones creating all the buzz, a voice from the crowd blurts out the most obvious question. Are they pricey? Will they even do the trick? What if it's like before, just a bottomless money pit that only ends up making things worse? Fair point. Since they're putting something into their bodies, on blind faith, I tackle that doubt head on. Look, every medication comes with some risk. None of you knew that drug would do this to you when you first started either. I'm no immortal, Dr. Wu, and I can't just whip up miracle cures out of thin air. But here is one thing I can promise. This detox remedy absolutely counteracts the toxin. That much, I can guarantee you. So what's the damage? How fast does it kick in? If it costs a fortune, forget about it. I'd rather save that cash for my kids than blow it on myself. It's not expensive, I state firmly. How much were you guys shelling out for the old stuff? Funny enough, a tiny dose cost a whole silver coin. An old-timer pipes up wistfully, clearly longing for that old high. Despite the mess, if it weren't so lethal, I would have never quit. That feeling beat my own wedding night. I swear. The crowd erupts into laughter. I smirk. Hey, at your age, you're not exactly in wedding night shape anymore anyway. More chuckles follow, sounding lighter now as hope clearly washes over the crowd. Miracle Doc, just give us the price tag already. Don't mind this old geezer. It's dirt cheap. Less than a 20th of what you used to spend. 5 copper coins. 5 coins a pill. Seriously? That's it? Yep, just 5 coins. I confirm. But for it to really work, you'll need 3 doses a day. That's 15 coins total daily. Keep it for a week at least. And those open wounds will start to crust over. The itching and pain will fade quite a bit. Light cases resolve around 70 to 80% within 3 months. And you'll be completely fit to farm the fields. Or handle heavy labor the entire time. Just 15 coins a day for this. Not even half a tael a month to literally save my life. Miracle Doctor, hook me up with a whole month's supply right now. Spring sowing is right around the corner. And I've got to be able to till my land. Same here. Me too. This is insanely cheap. For something this vital. You're a living saint. I'll build your shrine as well. Praying you enjoy a long life untouched by misfortune. I appreciate the kind words. But honestly, thanks Shopkeeper Joe and Dr. Wu first. If not for them, this cure wouldn't be on sale at such a bargain. I note the time in my head, desperate to escape before this gets even more out of hand, and yank the shopkeeper forward by his arm. Listen up, everyone. Whether you are buying medicine or wish to offer your thanks, deal with Shopkeeper Joe from this point on. I'm going to split right now. I push the shopkeeper into the crowd and make a run for it. Behind me, the shopkeeper gets swarmed, yelling desperately at my fleeing figure. Hey, Xianing. Don't ditch me here. Get back over here. Dr. Wu wants to meet you as well. The moment he shouts that, the wealthy gentleman, who just promised to erect a shrine for me, clutches his arm and refuses to let go. Shopkeeper, what did you just call him? What is the miracle doctor's name? Did you say Xianing? Which characters? What's the verdict? Grab my meds. I'm heading right out to track down a feng shui expert to select a burial spot for him.